My name is Brenda Foster, and at 30, I thought I had finally built a life free from my family's grip. I built my career from scratch, pouring everything into a tech startup and turning it into something worth a fortune. I sacrificed time, sleep, and even relationships to get where I am today. But for my family, it was never enough. Last Saturday at a family dinner, my parents leaned in smirking and dropped a bombshell. "Tomorrow we're moving into your house. No excuses." My sister, lounging beside her boyfriend, nodded as if it was already decided. Their smug faces burned into me, expecting me to roll over like always. I just smiled and replied, "Fine. But don't forget to bring 860K by morning." The room froze. What they didn't know, I'd already made a move they'd never see coming. Stick around to see how their plan crashed and burned. Before we dive into my story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story has reached. Growing up in our modest brick house in Greenville felt like two separate lives colliding under one roof. I was the older daughter, always expected to figure things out, while my younger sister got everything handed to her. My parents poured thousands into her private school tuition every year, boasting about her potential despite her C's and skipped classes. They even bought her a shiny red convertible parked proudly in our driveway, while I walked to the public high school with a backpack stuffed with secondhand textbooks I paid for myself. Her art classes, her summer trips to Europe, my parents funded it all, calling it an investment in her creative spirit. Meanwhile, I was told to manage with what I had. She wasn't just spoiled, she took directly from me. As a teen, she'd borrow my babysitting money, promising to pay it back, but never did. Once she used my parents' credit card to buy a $200 designer jacket, wore it twice, then tossed it in the closet. When I called her out, she smirked. "You're just stingy, Brenda." My parents backed her up, saying I should be more generous as the big sister. It stung, but I swallowed it, knowing arguing was pointless. The deepest cut came when I earned a partial scholarship to study abroad in London, a dream I had chased for years. That spring, a hospital bill from my father's emergency surgery hit us hard. My parents didn't ask her to contribute, she was too young. Instead, they turned to me. I gave up the scholarship, stayed home, and took a job at a local grocery store, ringing up canned goods to help cover the debt. They thanked me once, then went right back to praising her latest painting. That was when I knew I'd always be the one they leaned on, never the one they celebrated. After that, I stopped seeking their approval. At school, I threw myself into my studies, acing math and science while working nights. I secretly opened a savings account determined to build something they couldn't touch. By senior year, I had saved enough to cover my first semester of college without their help. She, meanwhile, failed half her classes, but still got a graduation party complete with a catered cake I could never afford. My parents clapped as she danced through it, oblivious to me in the corner, quietly planning my escape. It wasn't just about money. It was the constant reminder I was invisible, unless they needed something. Like when I fixed our leaky sink while they were too busy taking her to a gallery opening, or when I spent weekends tutoring kids for extra cash while she blew through their credit card on new shoes. Every time I thought about confronting them, her voice echoed in my head. "Why can't you just be happy for me?" And my parents would nod as if my sacrifices were just part of being the responsible one. Looking back, those years built a fire in me. I wasn't going to let their favoritism define my future. I studied harder, worked longer, and promised myself I'd never let them take advantage of me again. That resolve carried me out of that house, away from their expectations, and into a world where I could finally stand on my own. High school ended, and college became my battleground for independence, leading straight into the grind of building something real. I enrolled at a local university in Greenville with a partial scholarship barely covering tuition. To make up the rest, I juggled two jobs, waiting tables at a busy diner on Main Street and working as an administrative assistant at a nearby hospital. Most nights, I survived on 5 hours of sleep, chugging coffee to stay awake for early classes. My parents, meanwhile, paid my sister's full tuition at a fancy liberal arts college. She partied with friends, posted beach trip photos, and never worried about bills. I'd see her posts during my breaks, her carefree smile a stark contrast to my aching feet and endless spreadsheets. One rainy afternoon at a campus coffee shop, I met Daniel Brooks, a software engineer major with a quiet intensity. We bonded over our packed schedules, trading stories about late-night study sessions and side hustles. He'd grown up fixing computers for extra cash, so he got it. Self-reliance wasn't just a choice, it was survival. Daniel became my anchor, the one person who saw my drive and didn't judge me for it. We'd grab cheap tacos after shifts, dreaming about building something bigger than ourselves. His encouragement kept me going when I wanted to quit, especially on days when exhaustion made every step feel like wading through mud. Between classes and work, I stumbled into an online course on healthcare technology. It wasn't glamorous, but it clicked. The idea of using tech to help people monitor their health remotely fascinated me. I started interning at a small Greenville startup focused on a health tracking app, unpaid at first. The team was scrappy, working out of a cramped office with mismatched chairs. I poured my savings, $2,000 scraped together from diner tips, into their early project, betting on its potential. Late nights coding basic prototypes or analyzing user data became my obsession. I wasn't just learning, I was building a future I could control. By senior year, I graduated with a 3.7 GPA, my student debt lower than most because I'd worked myself to the bone. The startup offered me a full-time role and I jumped in. Over the next 5 years, I climbed from intern to lead developer, pouring every spare hour into the app's growth. We hit milestones: our first 10,000 users, then a contract with a local hospital system. My stake in the company grew, a mix of sweat equity and small investments from my savings. At 27, I bought a modest one-bedroom apartment in Greenville's suburbs close to our office. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, paid for with no help from anyone. I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would see what I'd built and respect it. So at 28, I invited them to visit our startup's office when we hit our first million in revenue. My parents walked in, eyes wide at the sleek monitors and bustling team. My sister trailed behind, snapping photos for her social media. They nodded, said things like, "This is impressive," and "You've done well." But then came the questions, too specific, too eager. My father asked about the company's valuation, how much my shares were worth. My mother pressed, "You're making good money now, right? Family helps family." My sister chimed in, suggesting I could share the wealth to make things easier for them. Their words sounded warm, but their eyes gleamed with something else: greed, plain and simple. That night, lying awake, I replayed their comments. Daniel sat with me, pointing out how their tone shifted when they talked about money. It wasn't pride, it was calculation. I'd spent years proving I didn't need their approval, but now I saw they weren't here to celebrate me, they were scoping out what they could take. My stomach churned at the realization. I'd built this life from nothing, and they were already circling like vultures. That moment hardened my resolve. Whatever came next, I'd protect what was mine, no matter who stood in my way. A few months after that visit, whispers from Aunt Carol confirmed what I'd feared about my family's growing greed. It started with a late-night phone call. Aunt Carol, my father's older sister, had always been the one relative who saw through the favoritism. "Brenda," she said, her voice low, "your parents are in deep trouble. They've racked up over $50,000 in credit card debt, all to keep your sister in that fancy apartment and fund her trips." I froze, clutching the phone. She went on, detailing how my parents had paid for Lori's rooftop loft in downtown Greenville and a week-long getaway to Paris, while their own savings dwindled. Worse, Carol overheard them talking about leaning on you to bail them out, counting on my startup's success to fix their mess. The next day, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. My father was on the phone in our old family living room, thinking I was out of earshot. "Brenda's got that big apartment now. he said, his tone clipped. We can move in, save on rent, and get her to chip in more. It's only fair. The words hit like a slap. I stood behind the doorway, heart-pounding memories flooding back of Lori borrowing my babysitting money as a teen, never paying it back, and my parents shrugging it off. This wasn't just about space. They saw my home, my success as their personal safety net. Betrayal burned in my chest sharper than ever. I wasn't going to let them touch what I'd built. That week, I contacted Patrick Sullivan, a lawyer in Greenville recommended by a colleague. In his small, tidy office, I laid out everything: my startup's growth, my shares, and my family's sudden interest. Patrick, calm and sharp, valued my stake at just over $1 million. You need to protect this, he said, adjusting his glasses. I agreed. We worked out a plan to transfer my entire stake to a venture capital fund for $860,000, a clean deal that would lock my assets out of anyone's reach. I signed the initial papers in secret, ensuring the transaction would close before my family could interfere. Every step felt like armor shielding what I'd earned. I kept it all quiet, even from Daniel at first. But one evening, over takeout in my apartment, I broke down. They're not proud of me, I told him, my voice shaking. They just want what I have. Daniel listened, his hand steady on mine, and reminded me I wasn't alone. He'd seen my parents' dismissive attitude before, like when they skipped my college graduation to take Lori shopping. You've got this, he said. You've always been stronger than they give you credit for. His words grounded me, pulling me back from the edge of doubt. To brace for the storm ahead, I leaned on Sharon Ellis, a sharp-witted colleague who'd become a close friend and potential business partner. Over coffee, I shared my fears about my family's intentions. Sharon, who'd navigated her own family drama, didn't sugarcoat it. They'll push harder when they realize you're not budging, she warned. We spent hours brainstorming ways to keep my startup on track, even if my family tried to derail it. Her confidence in our next project, a new health app feature, gave me focus. With Daniel's support and Sharon's strategic mind, I steeled myself for the confrontation I knew was coming. My family thought they could walk all over me, but I was ready to draw a line they couldn't cross. That Saturday evening at Magnolia's Italian Bistro in downtown Greenville, the air thickened with unspoken tensions. My parents sat across from me, their faces smug, as if they'd already won. My sister Lori lounged beside her boyfriend Brian, scrolling her phone with a bored smirk. Daniel sat next to me, his presence steady, while Aunt Carol watched quietly from the end of the table. The clink of glasses and chatter from nearby diners faded as my father leaned forward, his voice low and confident. Brenda, he said, we've decided. Tomorrow we're moving into your apartment. It's got plenty of space, and it's time you helped us out. My mother nodded, her lips curling. It's what families do, she added as if it were a done deal. I let the words hang, my pulse steady. I'd seen this coming thanks to Aunt Carol's warning and my father's overheard scheming. Smiling calmly, I set down my fork. That's interesting, I said, my voice even. Because I've already sold that house for $860,000. If you want to move in, bring that amount to the table. The table fell silent. My father's jaw tightened, his eyes wide with shock. My mother's smile vanished, replaced by a stunned blink. Lori dropped her phone, her face twisting in disbelief. Brian just stared, his fork frozen midair. They hadn't expected me to push back, let alone outmaneuver them. Lori recovered first, her voice sharp. You're so selfish, Brenda. Always hoarding everything for yourself. She snapped, her words dripping with venom. Brian chimed in, his tone mocking. What, you think you're better than us? You've always been jealous of Lori. Their accusations stung, but I'd heard worse growing up. My father leaned in, his voice cold. You're turning your back on family, he said. I'll make sure everyone in Greenville knows what kind of daughter you are. His threat landed like a punch, aiming to guilt me into submission. My mother, ever the performer, let tears well up. After all we've done for you, she whispered, sacrificing so much when you were young. Her words were hollow. Those sacrifices were nothing compared to the years I'd spent scraping by while they funded Lori's whims. I didn't flinch. You mean the sacrifices I made? I said, my tone firm. Like giving up my dreams to pay your bills, I'm done being your safety net. The words felt like a release, years of resentment spilling out. Daniel's hand found mine under the table, his grip warm and reassuring, urging me to stand my ground. Aunt Carol, silent until now, gave a subtle nod from across the table, her eyes steady with pride. Their support anchored me as my family's faces twisted: anger, shock, desperation. Lori scoffed, muttering ungrateful, while my mother dabbed at her eyes, playing the victim. My father's glare promised trouble, but I held his gaze unyielding. They thought they could bully me into giving up my home, my life, but I'd already taken steps to protect it, and no amount of guilt or threats would change that. The fallout from that dinner hit like a southern storm, relentless and soaking everything in sight. By Monday morning, Lori had taken to Facebook and Instagram, painting me as a heartless monster. Brenda's too greedy to help her own family, she posted alongside a photo of herself looking teary-eyed. The comments poured in from her Greenville friends, people I'd known since high school. How could you abandon them, one wrote. Family comes first. Another chimed in. Each notification felt like a jab, and I watched old connections unfriend me, their loyalty swayed by her lies. I wanted to fire back, to tell them about the years I'd carried my family's burdens, but I held back. Engaging would only fuel her narrative. Things escalated a week later when my parents stormed into my startup's office unannounced. I was presenting a new app feature to Rebecca Klein, my boss, when their voices cut through the open plan space. "Where's Brenda?" my father bellowed, his face red. "We deserve our share of this." My mother followed, waving her arms, shouting about how I'd stolen their chance at a better life. Rebecca's eyes widened and my colleagues froze, their keyboards silent. I stepped forward, heart racing, and tried to calm them. "This isn't the place," I said, my voice low but firm. They didn't budge, demanding I do right by family. I had no choice but to call security. 2 guards escorted them out as my mother yelled, "You'll regret this, Brenda." The humiliation burned, but I stood tall, refusing to let them sabotage my work. Back at my apartment, I met with Patrick Sullivan, the lawyer who'd handled my share transfer. He reviewed the paperwork, confirming the $860,000 deal was airtight. "They can't touch it," he said, flipping through documents. "No grounds for a lawsuit." I exhaled relief, mixing with exhaustion. Later, Aunt Carol called, her voice heavy. She'd learned my parents had taken a second mortgage on their house to cover more of Lori's expenses. New furniture, another trip. "They're drowning," she said. "And they're blaming you." I shook my head, the weight of their choices settling in. They'd built their own mess, but I wasn't going to clean it up anymore. That week, I made a choice. I blocked my parents' numbers, Lori's too. No more calls, no more texts. The decision felt like cutting a rope that had been strangling me for years. I turned my focus to Sharon Ellis, my colleague and friend, who was ready to launch our next project, a health app upgrade with real potential. We spent late nights at her place sketching out plans, her sharp ideas pushing me forward. "You're free now," she said one evening, handing me a coffee. "Don't let them drag you back." Her words sank in, and for the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. The storm was still raging, but I was finding my way through, surrounded by people who valued me for me, not for what I could give them. 6 months on, as Daniel and I unpacked boxes in our new place on the edge of Greenville, the weight of the past finally lifted. We'd tied the knot in a quiet ceremony at a local park, just us, a few close friends, and Aunt Carol beaming from the front row. No lavish reception, no drama, just a simple vow to build a life rooted in mutual respect and independence. Our new home, a cozy 2-bedroom with room for a future family, felt like a fresh start. We spent evenings arranging furniture, laughing over takeout, and planning a life that was ours alone, free from the expectations that had once chained me. With Sharon Ellis by my side, I poured most of the $860,000 transfer from my startup shares into a new venture, an advanced health app focused on mental wellness tracking. Sharon's knack for strategy and my coding skills meshed perfectly. Within months, we launched the app, gaining traction with local clinics and hitting a profit milestone faster than expected. We hired 3 new developers from Greenville, their enthusiasm reminding me why I loved this work. Every late night at the office, every breakthrough felt like proof that I'd made the right call, betting on myself instead of letting my family drain me. Meanwhile, my family faced the consequences of their choices. Aunt Carol, still my only link to them, shared the updates. Lori and Brian split after a heated fight over money he'd grown tired of her endless spending. She moved into a cramped studio apartment, working as an administrative assistant at a local real estate office, barely scraping by on a modest salary. Her social media posts, once full of glitz, now showed a quieter life, no longer propped up by my parents' credit cards. My parents weren't faring much better. To cover their debts, including that second mortgage, they sold the family home, the same one I'd grown up in. They moved into a basic retirement apartment, forced to cut back on dining out and vacations. Aunt Carol said they still grumbled about me, blaming me for their struggles, but I felt no guilt. They'd built their own cage. Looking back, I saw the truth clearly. Setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was survival. My family's dependence on me, their assumption that I'd always bend, had led them to this point. I'd spent years carrying their weight, from teenage sacrifices to bailing them out of hospital bills, but no more. Cutting them off freed me to build a life surrounded by people who valued my effort. Daniel with his steady support. Sharon with her fierce partnership. Aunt Carol with her quiet strength. As I sat in our new home watching Daniel hang a photo from our wedding, I felt a peace I hadn't known before. The scars of their betrayal lingered, but they no longer defined me. I'd chosen freedom, and it was worth every fight.
Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
She said, "I'm not in love with you." I nodded. "Thanks for being honest." By morning, the flowers, the surprises, the affection, all vanished. So did her smile. "I'm Jake, 29, and I've been with Sophia, 27, for 2.5 years. We've been living together for the past year in my downtown apartment. Everything seemed normal until last Sunday night, when she decided we needed to have an honest conversation about our relationship. We'd just finished dinner, some Thai takeout we'd been sharing while watching Netflix. She'd been quiet all evening, which wasn't unusual, but there was something different about her energy. Finally, she muted the TV and turned to face me on the couch. "Jake, I need to tell you something, and I want you to know it's coming from a place of love and respect." I set down my beer. "Okay, what's up?" She took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about where we're heading. I see our friends getting engaged, talking about marriage, and I realized I need to be completely honest with you about my feelings." My stomach dropped a little, but I kept my expression neutral. "I'm listening. I care about you so much. You're my best friend, my partner in everything. But, Jake, I'm not in love with you. I love you as a person, deeply, but I'm not in love with you. Does that make sense?" I sat there processing for a moment. The words hung in the air between us like a confession that changed everything. "Are you saying you want to break up?" I asked. "No. God, no. That's not what this is about at all. I love our life together. You make me laugh. You're reliable. You're kind. We have such a good thing going. I just wanted to be honest about the romantic feelings part. I thought you deserved to know the truth instead of me pretending." I nodded slowly. "Thanks for being honest. I appreciate you telling me the truth instead of pretending." She looked relieved, like she'd been carrying this weight for months. "I'm so glad you understand. I was worried you'd be upset." "I'm not upset," I said, and I meant it. "I'd rather know how you really feel than live in a fantasy." She smiled and leaned over to hug me. "This is why I love you, Jake. You're so mature about everything." We went to bed that night, like normal. She curled up next to me, and I stared at the ceiling thinking about what she'd said. She wasn't in love with me. Okay, that was actually useful information. If she wasn't in love with me, then logically, I should probably stop acting like someone who was in love with her. It only made sense. Monday morning, everything changed. I woke up first, like always, and went through my usual routine. Normally, I'd wake Sophia with a kiss and tell her I loved her before heading to work. Instead, I got dressed quietly and left a note. Gone to work early. Have a good day. At the office, I called Bloom and Petal, the florist where I'd had a standing weekly order for the past year and a half. Every Friday, they deliver a small bouquet to Sophia's office. Nothing expensive, just $20 worth of seasonal flowers to brighten her week. Hi, this is Jake Morrison. I need to cancel my weekly delivery service. Oh no, is everything all right? Your girlfriend seemed to love getting those flowers. Yeah, she's not really my girlfriend anymore. More like a roommate who I like. So the flowers don't really make sense. I hung up feeling oddly liberated. $20 a week added up to over $1,000 a year. That was a lot of money to spend on flowers for someone who wasn't in love with me. Throughout the day, I caught myself starting to text Sophia random thoughts or funny memes like I usually did. Each time I stopped. Those constant little check-ins, the thinking of you messages, the photos of cute dogs I'd see on my lunch walk. Those were boyfriend behaviors. If we were just really good friends who happened to live together, I needed to adjust accordingly. When I got home that evening, Sophia was cooking dinner. She'd made my favorite pasta dish and had wine open. She smiled when I walked in, expecting our usual greeting kiss. Instead, I gave her a friendly hug. Smells great in here, I said. I thought I'd make something special since we had such a good talk last night. She handed me a glass of wine. How was your day? Fine. Good. Normal Monday stuff. I sat at the kitchen counter instead of coming up behind her to wrap my arms around her waist while she cooked, which had been our routine for 2 years. She glanced over, clearly expecting more detail, more engagement. When I didn't elaborate, she filled the silence. Well, I had the weirdest day. My boss was in one of his moods again, and then I listened politely while she told me about her day, the same way I'd listen to any friend. When she finished cooking, we ate together and made pleasant conversation about work and weekend plans. After dinner, we moved to the living room to watch TV. Normally, this was prime cuddling time. Sophia would curl up against my side. I'd play with her hair, maybe give her a foot rub during commercials. Instead, I sat in the armchair across from the couch. Why are you sitting over there? She asked, patting the spot next to her. Just felt like a change of pace, I said, settling in with the remote. She looked confused but didn't push it. We watched a couple episodes of a show we'd been following, and when she yawned around 10, I said, I'm going to stay up a bit longer. Sleep well. Usually, we'd go to bed together. I'd brush my teeth while she did her skincare routine, and we'd talk about random things until we fell asleep. That night, I let her go to bed alone. When I finally came to bed an hour later, she was already asleep. I slipped in quietly without waking her for our usual goodnight kiss. Tuesday morning, Sophia seemed to expect things to go back to normal. She came into the kitchen while I was making coffee, wearing just my t-shirt, expecting morning affection. I smiled and handed her a mug. Thanks, she said, clearly waiting for more. No problem. I made extra. I finished my coffee, grabbed my laptop bag, and headed for the door. That's it, she called after me. I turned back. What do you mean? You're just leaving? I have to get to work. Same as always. But you didn't. She gestured vaguely at herself. I tilted my head, genuinely confused. Didn't what? She looked flustered. Never mind. Have a good day. You too. That afternoon, I went through our apartment methodically. In the back of my closet, I had a small collection of gifts I'd bought for Sophia over the months. Things I'd see that reminded me of her, little surprises I'd been saving for the right moment. A book by her favorite author that wouldn't be released for 2 more months. A vintage band t-shirt from a group she'd mentioned loving in college. A beautiful journal I'd found at a craft fair. I gathered them all up and put them in a box. The unreleased book I could probably return. The t-shirt and journal I'd donate. These were gifts from a boyfriend to his girlfriend. Since I wasn't her boyfriend anymore, it seemed inappropriate to keep them. Sophia found me in the bedroom with the box. What's all that? She asked. Just some things I was saving for special occasions. Since we're not really doing the romantic relationship thing anymore, I figured I should clear them out. She peered into the box and saw the book. Oh my God, is that the new Sarah Chen novel? It doesn't come out until December. Yeah, I have a connection at the publishing house. Pre-ordered it months ago. For me? Well, for my girlfriend. But you mentioned not being in love with me, so we're more like friends now. Seems weird to give romantic gifts to a friend. Her face went through several expressions. Jake, when I said I wasn't in love with you, I didn't mean. What did you mean? She struggled for words. I meant I wanted us to be honest with each other. Not that I wanted you to completely change how you treat me. But this is honest, I said. Romantic gestures are for romantic relationships. We're not in one of those anymore, so I'm adjusting accordingly. It's more respectful this way. Wednesday was date night. For the past 2 years, we'd had a standing Wednesday dinner date, alternating who picked the restaurant. It was Sophia's turn to choose, and she'd made reservations at Marcella's, this cozy Italian place we both loved. At work, I texted our friends Tom and Lisa. Hey, want to join Sophia and me for dinner tonight? Marcella's at 7. When I got home, Sophia was getting dressed up. The black dress I'd told her looked amazing, the perfume I'd bought her for her birthday. Ready for dinner? She asked, clearly expecting this to feel like old times. Yeah, Tom and Lisa should meet us there in about 20 minutes. She froze. Tom and Lisa? Why? I thought it would be fun to hang out with friends. Make it more of a group thing. But it's date night. I looked at her genuinely confused. Is it though? I mean, friends go to dinner all the time. I didn't realize you were thinking of it as a date. We've been doing date night for 2 years, Jake. When we were dating. Now we're just friends who live together. Friends have dinner together, but usually in groups, right? She stared at me for a long moment. Fine. Whatever. Let's go. Dinner was perfectly pleasant. Tom and Lisa were great company, and we all laughed and shared stories. When the check came, I did what I always did in group settings, split it 4 ways. Previously, on our date nights, I'd usually pay for both Sophia and me. That'll be $18 each, I said, pulling out my card. Sophia looked at me strangely. Since when do we split the check? Since we started hanging out as friends instead of dating, I said matter-of-factly. This is how it works when friends go to dinner. Tom and Lisa exchanged a look but didn't comment. They threw in their cards, and we all paid our shares. On the drive home, Sophia was quiet. Everything okay? I asked. This whole thing feels weird, Jake. What thing? You're treating me like. Like what? Like we're strangers. Not strangers. Like friends. Which is what you said you wanted, right? You love me as a person, but you're not in love with me. That's friendship. She didn't respond, just stared out the window. Thursday night. Sophia came home from work obviously stressed. She'd had a terrible day. Her boss had criticized a project she'd worked on for weeks, a client had been rude to her, and her car was making weird noises. For the past 2.5 years, this would have been my cue to go into full boyfriend mode. I'd listen to every detail, offer solutions, run her a bath, order from her favorite comfort food place, give her a massage, do whatever it took to make her feel better. Instead, I listened politely while she vented, said, "That sounds really frustrating," and went back to reading my book. She stood in the doorway of the living room for a moment, clearly waiting for more. "Aren't you going to?" She started. "Going to what?" "I don't know. Ask me more about it. Help me figure out what to do." I looked up from my book. "Do you want advice? I mean, with the boss thing, you could probably talk to HR if it continues. And with the car, Jim's Automotive on 5th Street is supposed to be good. Tom recommended them." "That's it. What else would you like me to say?" She looked frustrated. "Nothing. Never mind." She went to take a shower, and I heard her crying in there. Part of me wanted to go comfort her, but that would be overstepping the boundaries she'd established. If we were just friends, then her emotional regulation was her responsibility, not mine. Friday brought the real test. Sophia worked late, and when she got home around 8, she seemed to expect her usual Friday flowers to be waiting. They weren't, of course, because I'd canceled the order. "No flowers today?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, right. I canceled that order. Didn't seem appropriate anymore." "Why not?" "Well, I was sending flowers to my girlfriend's office. Since you're not really my girlfriend, it seemed like it might give people the wrong idea. I work with the same people I've worked with for 2 years, Jake. They know we're together." "Are we, though? Together? I thought we were friends who lived together." She opened and closed her mouth a few times. We're something. We've been together for 2.5 years. We're together. Past tense. Now we're friends." That weekend, everything came to a head. Sophia spent Saturday morning clearly trying to recreate our old dynamic. She made breakfast, My favorite blueberry pancakes that she usually only made for special occasions. She wore my favorite t-shirt of hers. She suggested we go to the farmer's market, something we used to do as a couple. Want to make it a group thing? I asked. I bet Tom and Lisa would be up for it. No, Jake. I want to go with just you. Okay, but as friends, right? I don't want there to be any confusion about what this is. She looked hurt. Why are you being like this? Like what? So, distant. Cold. I set down my fork. Sophia, I'm not being cold. I'm being appropriate. You told me you weren't in love with me. That's fine, but it means our relationship has changed. I'm treating you the way I treat my other friends because that's what we are now. But I still care about you. I care about you too, as a friend. This isn't what I wanted, she said quietly. What did you want? She was quiet for a long moment. I wanted honesty between us. This is honesty. I'm being completely honest about what I'm willing to give to someone who isn't in love with me. That afternoon, she tried a different approach. She suggested we go see a movie, just the two of us. I agreed, and we went to the theater. But instead of our usual routine, sharing popcorn, holding hands, cuddling during the film, I bought my own snacks and sat normally in my seat. During a particularly romantic scene, I felt her hand reach for mine. I gave it a friendly squeeze and then let go, the same way I might with any platonic friend. On the drive home, she finally exploded. What is wrong with you? She yelled. You're acting like you don't even know me. I pulled over and put the car in park. Sophia, I'm confused. What exactly do you want from me? I want you to act like yourself. This is myself. This is how I act with people who aren't in love with me. But I never said I wanted you to stop caring about me. I haven't stopped caring about you. I care about you the same way I care about all my friends. That's not enough. The words burst out of her before she could stop them. We sat in silence for a moment. Not enough for what? I asked gently. She started crying. I don't know. I miss how things were. You miss me acting like I was in love with you? Yes. Even though you're not in love with me. She cried harder. It's complicated. It's not complicated, Sophia. You want me to give you all the benefits of being loved without actually loving me back. That's not friendship. That's not fair. Sunday night, we had another conversation. Sophia sat me down in the living room, clearly having prepared what she wanted to say. Jake, I think we need to talk about what happened last weekend. Okay, when I told you I wasn't in love with you, I was trying to be honest about a confusing time in my life. I was feeling overwhelmed by how serious things were getting between us, and I got scared. I nodded, listening. But I realize now that what I said hurt you, and you're pulling away to protect yourself. I'm not pulling away. I'm just being appropriate. This isn't appropriate, Jake. This is you shutting down. I thought about that. Let me ask you something. Do you want me to go back to buying you flowers every week? Yes. Do you want me to plan romantic date nights? Yes. Do you want me to be your emotional support system when you have bad days? Yes. Do you want me to give you back rubs and wake you up with kisses and text you throughout the day to tell you I'm thinking about you? Yes, of course. And in return, you'll continue not being in love with me? She was quiet. That's what I thought. You want all the actions of love without any of the feeling. You want me to perform love for you while you give me friendship in return. That's not. It is though. You've been very clear that you love me as a friend. So I'm treating you like a friend. The fact that you don't like it should tell you something. Monday brought a new development. I got to work to find a text from Sophia. Emergency. Need to talk. I called her during my lunch break. What's the emergency? I've been thinking all morning, and I realized something important. I think I was wrong about my feelings. Okay. I think I am in love with you. I was just scared and confused, but watching how you've been acting this week made me realize how much you mean to me. I was quiet for a moment. Interesting timing. What do you mean? I mean, you realized you loved me right after experiencing what it's like when I don't act like I love you. It's not about that, isn't it? When I was bringing you flowers and planning dates and being your emotional support system, you weren't in love with me. But as soon as I stopped doing those things, suddenly you realized you loved me? Jake, please, can we just go back to how things were? Were you lying when you said you weren't in love with me? No, I wasn't lying. I was confused. Are you lying now when you say you are in love with me? No, I'm not lying now either. So your feelings changed completely in the span of 5 days? She was quiet. Or, I continued, Did you realize what you were losing and decide you wanted it back? Why can't you just believe that I figured out my feelings? Because people don't fall in love with someone who's treating them like a friend, Sophia. People fall in love with someone who's treating them like they're special. The only thing that changed this week was my behavior, not your feelings. That evening, she tried to initiate physical intimacy for the first time since our conversation. I gently declined. Why? She asked. Because I'm not comfortable being intimate with someone who isn't in love with me. But I just told you I am in love with you. You told me that after I stopped acting like I loved you. It feels reactive, not authentic. So what do you want from me? I want you to figure out what you actually feel without the influence of what you're getting or not getting from me. Tuesday, I came home to find Sophia had cooked an elaborate dinner. Candles, wine, my favorite playlist, the works. What's all this? I wanted to show you how I feel, she said. I wanted to make a romantic evening for us. This is very thoughtful, I said, but I should probably pay for my half of the groceries. Her face fell. You want to split the cost of a romantic dinner I made for you? Well, if we're friends, then yes. That's how friends handle shared meals. We're not friends, Jake. We're together. Are we? Based on what? Based on 2.5 years together. Those 2.5 years were when you were pretending to be in love with me. Now that we're being honest, what exactly are we together based on? She started crying again. Wednesday, I got a call at work from Sophia's sister Emma. Hey Jake, Sophia asked me to call you. Oh hey Emma, what's up? She's really upset about what's been going on with you guys. She says you're being cold and distant since she opened up about her feelings. Did she tell you what she opened up about? She said she was going through a confusing time and told you she needed space to figure things out, and now you're punishing her for being honest. That's an interesting interpretation. What she actually said was that she wasn't in love with me, but wanted to keep our living situation and relationship the same. Silence on Emma's end. She told you she wasn't in love with you? Exact words were, I love you as a person, but I'm not in love with you. And she expected you to just keep being her boyfriend? Apparently. That's... Emma sighed. Jake, I'm sorry she put you in this position. And I'm sorry she asked me to call without giving me the full story. It's okay. I get that she's upset. Are you okay? Yeah, actually. I'm clearer about things than I've been in a long time. Thursday brought the nuclear option. I came home to find my parents sitting in my living room with Sophia, who looked like she'd been crying. Hey Mom, Dad, I said, surprised. What are you doing here? My mom stood up and hugged me. Sophia called us. She's worried about you. I looked at Sophia, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Worried about me? She says you've been acting strange lately, pulling away from everyone, and she's concerned about your mental health. I sat down across from them. What exactly did she tell you? My dad cleared his throat. She said you've been cold and distant since she tried to have an honest conversation with you about the relationship. Did she mention what that conversation was about? She said she was trying to work through some feelings about commitment, and you've been punishing her for being vulnerable. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, where I'd been documenting important conversations since this all started. Let me read you what she actually said. I found the entry from that Sunday night. She said, and I quote, I'm not in love with you. I love you as a person, but I'm not in love with you. She then said she wanted to keep our living situation and relationship exactly the same, just without the romantic feelings on her end. My parents looked at Sophia, who had gone pale. Is that accurate? My mom asked her. Sophia nodded reluctantly. My dad, who's usually pretty quiet, looked at Sophia with confusion. You told him you don't love him romantically, but you're upset that he's not being romantic with you? It's more complicated than that, Sophia said. How? My mom asked. I was just trying to be honest about a confusing time. By telling him you're not in love with him, my dad interrupted. And now you're calling us because he's treating you like someone who's not in love with him? Sophia started crying again. My mom turned to me. Jake, are you punishing her? I showed them my recent bank statements on my phone. For the past 2 years, I've been covering about 70% of our shared expenses. Dinners, entertainment, her flowers every week, gifts, everything. Since she told me she wasn't in love with me, I've been splitting things 50-50, like friends do. I scrolled through the numbers. I'm not punishing her. I'm just not subsidizing her lifestyle anymore. My dad actually chuckled. Good for you, son. Sophia looked shocked. How can you say that? Because, my mom said gently, you can't have it both ways, sweetheart. You can't tell someone you don't love them and then expect them to keep treating you like you do. After my parents left, Sophia was furious. I can't believe you embarrassed me like that in front of your parents. I didn't embarrass you. I told them the truth. You made me look like a gold digger. I showed them the facts. You can draw your own conclusions about what that makes you look like. Friday was when everything finally came out. Sophia had been quiet all day, and when I got home from work, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. We need to talk, she said. I sat down across from her. I owe you an apology, she began. And an explanation. I waited. A few weeks ago, I read this article online about how to know if your relationship is real. It said that comfortable relationships sometimes lack passion, and that one way to test if your partner really loves you is to create a crisis and see how they react. My stomach dropped. Go on. The article said that if you tell your partner you're not sure about your feelings, someone who really loves you will fight for the relationship. They'll try harder, be more romantic, prove their love. And someone who doesn't really love you will give up easily. She looked miserable. I thought if I told you I wasn't in love with you, you'd prove how much you loved me by trying harder. I sat back in my chair. So you were testing me. I was testing the relationship. I wanted to see if what we had was real or just comfortable. By lying to me about your feelings. I wasn't lying exactly. I was confused, and I wanted to see. You were following a script from an internet article designed to manipulate me into performing love. She was crying now. I realize how awful that sounds. Show me the article. What? Show me the article. You said you read it a few weeks ago. It should be in your browser history. Reluctantly, she turned her laptop around. The article was titled, 10 Ways to Test If Your Partner Really Loves You. I scrolled through it, recognizing the strategy she'd used. Number 7. Create emotional distance and see if they fight to close the gap. Were you planning to use the other 9 methods too? No, I only read this one and thought. You thought you'd manipulate me into proving my love instead of just trusting it. I'm sorry, Jake. I realize now how stupid it was. It wasn't stupid, Sophia. It was cruel. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Can you forgive me? She asked finally. I don't know. Can we try again? Start over? Start over based on what? How do I know you won't test me again the next time you're feeling insecure? I won't. I promise. You promised to love me when we started dating too. I do love you. You love what I do for you. That's different. Saturday, Sophia spent the day packing. She'd finally accepted that I wasn't going to go back to the old dynamic, and she'd decided to move in with her friend Chloe temporarily. Is this really what you want? She asked while folding clothes. I want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't need to test my love to believe in it. But we've been together for over 2 years. We've been in a relationship where I loved you and you enjoyed being loved. That's not the same thing as both of us loving each other. I do love you, Jake. You love the security of being loved. But you've never actually been in love with me, have you? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she finally admitted. I thought I was, but maybe I just loved how you treated me. At least that's honest. Sunday evening, she finished packing. Most of her stuff fit in her car, with just a few boxes to come back for later. I keep thinking about what could have been, she said as she loaded the last suitcase. What could have been is you trusting what we had instead of testing it. Do you think we'll ever? No, I said gently. I need to be with someone who wants to love me, not someone who wants to be loved by me. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I really did ruin everything, didn't I? You made a choice. We both have to live with it. After she left, I walked through the apartment. It felt different, lighter somehow. For the first time in months, I wasn't wondering if I was doing enough, being enough, loving enough. I wasn't walking on eggshells around someone's feelings or trying to prove my worth. I ordered pizza from my favorite place, the one Sophia never liked. I watched a movie she would have hated. I called my friend Marcus and made plans to go hiking next weekend, something I'd stopped doing because Sophia always had other plans for us. It's been 2 weeks since she moved out. Yesterday, she texted, I miss you. I miss us. Can we talk? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I thought about what I'd learned about myself in this whole mess. I'd spent 2.5 years trying to love someone enough for both of us. I'd been so focused on being the perfect boyfriend that I'd forgotten to notice I was the only one actually trying. The apartment is quieter now, but it's a peaceful quiet. I wake up without anxiety about whether I'm doing enough. I go to bed without wondering if I said the right things. I'm not walking on eggshells or managing someone else's emotions or trying to prove my worth every single day. I've started taking that photography class I've been putting off. Sophia always said it was a waste of money, but it turns out I love it. I've been hitting the gym consistently for the first time in years. I've been hanging out with friends without checking in every hour or rushing home to handle some crisis. My bank account is healthier too. I ran the numbers. I was spending almost $900 a month on relationship maintenance. Dinners, gifts, activities, covering her shortfalls when money was tight. That's almost $11,000 a year I was investing in someone who wasn't investing in me. This morning, I finally responded to her text. I hope you figure out what you're actually looking for. But I'm not interested in being tested again. I want to be with someone who's sure about me, not someone who needs me to prove myself. She wrote back immediately. I'm sure about you now. I know what I lost. You know what you lost, I replied. That's different from knowing what you want. 3 months later, I'm dating someone new. Her name is Rachel, and she lights up when she sees me. She says, I love you, like she means it and can't wait to say it. She would never dream of testing my feelings because she's too busy appreciating them. Sophia texted last week asking if I ever think about getting back together. I don't. I'm too busy being loved by someone who actually wants to love me back. The funny thing is, I'm grateful to Sophia now. Her test revealed the truth, not about whether I loved her, but about whether she loved me. The answer was clear the moment she expected me to keep performing love while she withheld it. Some people want to be loved. Others want to love. The lucky ones find someone who wants both. I'm holding out for lucky.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
I'm Debbie 32, the black sheep of my picture-perfect suburban family. While my brother Mark basked in the golden glow of our parents' approval, I collected their disappointment like unwanted souvenirs. But nothing prepared me for the day they looked me in the eyes and suggested I skip my only brother's wedding. Their exact words still ring in my ears. The greatest gift for your brother's wedding is you vanishing from this family, forever. I didn't beg. I just left. Before I tell you how my family's perfect day turned into their worst nightmare, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt like the unwanted family member. Growing up in Fairfield, Connecticut, meant pristine lawns, country club memberships, and neighbors who competed with Christmas decorations and SAT scores. Our colonial-style house with its white picket fence was the perfect backdrop for my parents' obsession with appearances. Richard and Diane Walker weren't just my parents, they were social climbers disguised as suburban royalty. My father built his accounting firm from scratch, and my mother ran the local historical society with military precision. Together, they crafted an image of family perfection that left no room for flaws. Unfortunately for them, I was nothing but flaws in their eyes. My brother Mark, 2 years older, embodied everything they valued. By age 10, his bedroom shelves groaned under the weight of soccer trophies. By 14, he was class president and math team captain. By 18, he had acceptance letters from 3 Ivy League schools and a perfect SAT score that my mother mentioned at every possible opportunity. Mark is going places my father would announce at family gatherings, hand firmly gripping my brother's shoulder. He's got the Walker determination. Meanwhile, I fidgeted in corners, struggled to focus, and brought home report cards that made my father's lips disappear into a thin, disappointed line. What none of us knew then was that I had undiagnosed ADHD. All they saw was a daughter who couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, and couldn't be more different from her perfect brother. Why can't you apply yourself like Mark became the soundtrack of my childhood? When I spent hours hyper-focused on drawing instead of homework, my sketchbooks would mysteriously disappear. Doodling won't get you into college, my mother would say, while tossing my art supplies into a donation box. At Thanksgiving, when I was 12, I overheard my aunt ask my mother what was wrong with Debbie. She's just difficult, my mother replied, not bothering to lower her voice. We've tried everything. Some kids just don't want to succeed. The truth was, I wanted their approval more than anything. I just couldn't figure out how to earn it. When I brought home a B+ in English, my father barely looked up from Mark's science fair invitation. When I made the junior varsity volleyball team, my mother reminded me that Mark had been varsity as a freshman. My 16th birthday fell on the same week Mark received his acceptance to Princeton. My celebration consisted of a rush dinner at a chain restaurant where the conversation centered entirely around Mark's full scholarship and future prospects. My parents gave me a practical gift card while Mark received a car for all his hard work. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried until my throat burned. But something shifted inside me. I realized I would never be Mark, and more importantly, I didn't want to be. If they couldn't love me for who I was, I would learn to love myself enough to make up the difference. I channeled my energy into art, the one thing that made sense to me. While my parents dismissed my sketches as just a hobby I found refuge in creating, my high school art teacher, Mrs. Landon, was the first adult who saw potential in me. She stayed after school to help me build a portfolio and connected me with summer programs. "You have a unique perspective, Debbie," she told me, while reviewing my work. "Not everyone will understand it, but that doesn't make it less valuable." When I was accepted to Rhode Island School of Design with a partial scholarship, my parents reacted as if I'd announced plans to join the circus. "Art school." My father's face reddened. "And what kind of career do you expect to have?" "It's a phase," my mother assured him in front of me. "She'll transfer to a real program eventually." I didn't transfer. Instead, I worked part-time jobs to cover expenses, graduated with honors, and built a career as a commercial artist for advertising agencies. By 32, I had a stable freelance business, a small but stylish apartment in New Haven, and clients who respected my work. My parents referred to my career as drawing pictures for a living when forced to explain it to their friends. Their dismissal hurt, but I'd built a life that made me proud. I had friends who understood me, a diagnosis that explained my childhood struggles, and the freedom to create on my own terms. I kept contact with my family, limited but cordial, attending obligatory holidays and occasional Sunday dinners where my father still asked when I'd get a real job, and my mother lamented my single status and artistic clothing choices. I wasn't happy with our relationship, but I'd accepted it as the best possible version. I never imagined they would find a new way to hurt me until my brother announced his engagement. The news came via a group text from Mark. She said, "Yes, Amelia and I are engaged." Attached was a photo of a beaming Amelia displaying a diamond ring that could probably pay my rent for 6 months. Despite our complicated relationship, I felt genuinely happy for my brother. I called him immediately. "Congratulations, I'm so excited for you both," I said, and I meant it. "Thanks, Deb," he replied, sounding happier than I'd heard him in years. "Amelia's already talking about dresses and venues. You know how at Island?" I didn't know, actually. My longest relationship had lasted 2 years before ending amicably, but I nodded into the phone as if I understood perfectly. The next day, my mother called to share the wonderful news as if I hadn't already heard it. "The Prestons are such a wonderful family," she gushed. "Her father is on the board of 3 companies, you know. And they have that beautiful summer home in Newport." Amelia Preston came from old money, the kind that my parents had always aspired to. Her family had been in Connecticut since colonial times, with a foundation that donated to all the right causes and a name that appeared regularly in local society pages. "We're thinking June at the Preston estate," my mother continued. "It's going to be the event of the season." Within weeks, the wedding consumed every family conversation. My parents spoke of nothing else, describing flower arrangements, guest lists, and menu options in exhaustive detail. When I visited their house, the dining table had disappeared under magazines, fabric swatches, and seating charts. My first real interaction with Amelia after the engagement came at a family dinner meant to celebrate the happy couple. She air-kissed my cheeks and looked me over with thinly veiled assessment. "Mark mentioned you're some kind of artist," she said, her tone making it sound like an exotic disease. "That must be so freeing." "I design campaigns for national brands," I clarified. "Just finished a project for Nordstrom, actually." "How lovely," she replied, without interest, before turning to discuss the wedding cake with my mother. As planning intensified, I noticed my involvement decreasing. Weekly family dinners became wedding planning sessions where my input wasn't requested. When I asked my mother about being a bridesmaid, she looked uncomfortable. Amelia has 4 sisters and her college roommates, she explained. The bridal party is quite full already. I nodded, trying to hide my hurt. Mark was my only sibling. I had assumed I'd be included. 3 months before the wedding, tensions escalated at a Saturday brunch at my parents' house. Amelia's mother, Martha, was reviewing the weekend schedule, which included a Friday rehearsal dinner, Saturday ceremony, and Sunday brunch. The rehearsal dinner has a strict black tie dress code, Martha announced, glancing pointedly at my casual attire. We want everything to be cohesive in the photos. Black tie seems a bit formal for a rehearsal dinner, I ventured, and it might be difficult for guests traveling from out of town. The table fell silent. Martha's smile tightened. Well, we Preston women believe some occasions deserve proper respect. My mother jumped in quickly. Debbie doesn't attend many formal events in her creative circles. I felt my face flush. I understand formal events just fine. I'm suggesting you consider your guests' convenience. We have, Amelia said coolly. That's why we've arranged a weekend of activities rather than just a single day. People traveling deserve the full experience. At considerable expense to them, I pointed out. 3 nights in Fairfield hotels, formal attire plus wedding gifts. If people can't celebrate properly, they shouldn't attend. Amelia's father interjected. I caught Mark's eye across the table, silently pleading for support. He examined his water glass with sudden interest. I think what Debbie means, my father said with forced joviality, is that she's not used to these kinds of events. The Walker side of the family is more practical. The implications stung. My family was once again apologizing for my existence. That evening, I tried to talk to Mark alone. We stood in our parents' backyard, away from the planning chaos inside. Are you happy with all this? I asked him. The weekend extravaganza, the strict dress codes, the expense. He shrugged. It's important to Amelia, and her family is covering most costs. But is it what you want? The Mark I grew up with wanted a lakeside ceremony with a barbecue reception. He looked away. People change, Deb. This is my life now. The Prestons have connections that can help my career. So, this is a business merger, not a wedding. His expression hardened. That's unfair. I love Amelia. If you can't be happy for me, maybe you should reconsider your involvement. The words hit like a physical blow. I am happy for you, I said quietly. I just want to make sure you're happy too. I'd be happier if my sister supported my choices instead of questioning them, he replied, walking back inside. I stood alone in the gathering darkness, realizing that the brother who once built forts with me in the living room had become a stranger. Whatever connection we'd maintained through our difficult childhood was unraveling before my eyes, replaced by Amelia's vision of country club perfection. The breaking point came exactly 1 month before the wedding. My parents invited me to dinner, ostensibly to catch up, though I suspected another wedding discussion. When I arrived at their house, I found not just my parents and Mark, but Amelia as well, dressed immaculately on a Tuesday evening. Debbie, my mother, greeted me with an air kiss. That's an interesting top. I glanced down at my emerald green blouse. There was nothing provocative or unusual about it, but I recognized my mother's tone. The criticism had begun before I'd even sat down. Dinner progressed with superficial pleasantries while tension built beneath the surface. My father discussed stock options with Mark. Amelia described her recent spa weekend. My mother commented on neighborhood gossip. I ate silently, feeling increasingly like an intruder in my childhood home. The shift came with dessert. Amelia delicately placed her fork beside her half-eaten cheesecake and turned to me with a practiced smile. Debbie, I wanted to discuss the wedding photos with you. What about them? I asked immediately, wary. Well, we've established a certain aesthetic for the day. Very classic, very timeless. She gestured vaguely at my hair, which I'd recently highlighted with subtle purple streaks. We were hoping you might consider a more traditional look for the occasion. You want me to change my hair for your wedding photos. And perhaps consider something more appropriate than your usual attire, my mother added. The Prestons' photographer is very exclusive. These photos will be in their family for generations. I placed my napkin beside my plate. I'm not changing my appearance to fit your aesthetic. I'm not a prop for your perfect day. This is exactly what we mean, my father interjected. This attitude, this rebellion. It's inappropriate for a sophisticated event. Rebellion, I'm 32 years old. This is who I am. We're just concerned you might not fit in, my mother, said her voice lowered, as if sharing a shameful secret. The guest list includes state senators, CEOs, even a distant cousin of European royalty. And you're worried I'll embarrass you, the realization washed over me with cold clarity. You're not concerned about my comfort. You're concerned about how I'll look standing next to the Preston family. Silence confirmed my words. I looked at Mark, hoping for intervention, but he studied his water glass with the same intensity he'd shown at brunch months earlier. Mark, I said directly, do you also want me to change my appearance for your wedding? He glanced at Amelia, then back to his glass. I want everyone to be comfortable. That's not an answer. Debbie, my mother interrupted sharply. This day isn't about you. It's about Mark and Amelia's future. Why must you always make everything so difficult? I'm not making anything difficult. I'm simply existing as myself. Perhaps Amelia suggested with practiced diplomacy, it would be easier for everyone if we reconsidered certain arrangements. What arrangements, I asked, though I already knew. My mother took a deep breath, exchanged glances with my father, and delivered the words that would change everything. Debbie, we've been thinking, maybe. The greatest gift for your brother's wedding is you vanishing from this family forever. The room went silent. I stared at her, unable to process the words initially. What did you just say? My father cleared his throat. What your mother means is that on your brother's wedding day, it's better if you're not there, for everyone's sake. I looked at each of them in turn. My mother, chin raised defensively. My father, expression stern but eyes averted. Amelia, a slight triumphant curl to her lips. And Mark, still examining that damn water glass. Something broke inside me, but not in the way they expected. Instead of tears or outrage, I felt a strange, calm clarity. I see, I said, standing slowly. Thank you for making your feelings so abundantly clear. Debbie, don't be dramatic, my mother began. I raised my hand to stop her words. No, you've said enough. You've made your choice, and now I'll make mine. I walked calmly to the entryway, collected my jacket and purse, and turned to face my family one last time. They had followed me, looking uncertain now that I wasn't creating the scene they'd anticipated. I've spent my entire life trying to earn a place in this family, I said quietly. I'm done trying. Mark, I hope your wedding is everything you want it to be. I truly mean that. Debbie, wait. Mark finally spoke, but I was already opening the door. No need to see me out, I said. I know the way. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently behind me, a quiet conclusion to 32 years of trying to belong where I clearly never would. I walked to my car without looking back, started the engine, and drove away from the house I grew up in, feeling lighter with each mile. The drive to my apartment passed in a blur. Streetlights smeared into golden streaks as tears finally came, but they weren't the devastated sobs my family might have expected. They were quiet, cleansing tears that washed away decades of trying to be someone I wasn't. My apartment welcomed me with its colorful artwork and mismatched furniture that my mother had called eclectic in her most disapproving tone. Here, surrounded by things I'd chosen because they brought me joy rather than status, I could breathe again. I kicked off my shoes and called Tasha my best friend since art school. They did what she exploded after I recounted the evening. Your own parents suggested you skip your brother's wedding. That's beyond toxic. That's emotional abuse. I know, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. But it's also clarifying. I've been holding on to this fantasy that someday they'd accept me. Now I know they won't, and there's freedom in that. Do you want me to come over? I can bring emergency ice cream and we can burn effigies of your family. I laughed, despite everything. Thanks, but I think I need tonight alone to process. After we hung up, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and deactivated all my social media accounts. I couldn't bear the thought of wedding updates or carefully curated family photos appearing in my feed. Then I silenced my phone and placed it in a drawer. Whatever family drama unfolded in the coming days, I didn't need to witness it in real time. Instead, I turned to the one thing that had always sustained me: my art. I had a major commission for a tech startup's rebranding campaign with concepts due in 2 weeks. I spread my materials across my dining table and lost myself in creation. Colors and shapes flowed from my hands, transforming pain into productivity. I worked until sunrise, producing more innovative concepts than the client had requested. The next few days established a new rhythm. I ignored the increasing number of missed calls from extended family members who'd clearly heard about the confrontation. I focused entirely on my work, my health, and rebuilding my sense of self. I took long walks along the harbor, cooked nutritious meals instead of surviving on takeout, and started each morning with meditation. Only one call broke through my self-imposed isolation. My grandmother, my father's mother, had always been quietly supportive in a family that valued achievement over compassion. When her name appeared on my phone, I answered. Debbie, her familiar voice crackled through the speaker. I've heard what happened. I'm sure you have, I replied, bracing for another lecture about family obligation. I'm sorry, she said instead. I should have stood up for you more over the years. Your grandfather and we always saw your brightness even when Richard and Diane were too blinded by their expectations to notice. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, Grandma. You know your grandfather was an artist too, she continued. His parents forced him into business. He painted in secret his whole life, beautiful landscapes that nobody saw but me. He always admired your courage to follow your passion openly. We talked for nearly an hour. She didn't pressure me to reconcile with my parents or attend the wedding. Instead, she listened, really listened, perhaps for the first time. Whatever you decide, know that you're a walker too, she said before hanging up. And walkers are survivors. Her words strengthened my resolve to redefine myself on my own terms. I threw myself into the tech company project with renewed focus, creating my best work to date. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I delivered my completed designs in person at the tech company's downtown office. As I waited in their sleek lobby, a man approximately my age approached. Debbie Walker, he asked, extending his hand. Jackson Reed, creative director. I've been looking forward to meeting the mind behind these concepts. Jackson wasn't what I expected. Most creative directors I'd worked with were either frantic with energy or projecting calculated coolness. He had an understated confidence and actually listened when I explained my design choices. These are exceptional, he said as we reviewed the portfolio in a glass-walled conference room. The team is impressed by how you've captured our ethos while creating something genuinely fresh. Thank you, I replied, unused to such direct appreciation of my work. We have a few other projects coming up that would benefit from your perspective, he continued, including a potential exhibition space in our new headquarters. We're thinking of featuring local artists. That sounds interesting, I said carefully. Actually, he leaned forward slightly. I've seen your personal work online. Your mixed media pieces have exactly the energy we want to showcase. Would you consider being our featured artist for the launch? I stared at him, momentarily speechless. My commercial work paid the bills, but my personal art was where my heart lived. I'd never had a solo exhibition opportunity before. I'd need to see the space I managed finally. And understand your timeline. Of course, he smiled. No pressure. Think about it. I left the meeting with Jackson's card and a strange lightness in my chest that took me a moment to identify hope. Not the desperate hope I'd once harbored for my family's approval, but something healthier. Professional recognition, creative opportunity, and a reminder that my worth wasn't defined by my parents' limited perception. As the wedding day approached, I received increasingly urgent messages from extended family. Aunt Judith called to understand both sides. Cousin Rachel texted that I was breaking your mother's heart. Uncle Stephen emailed a lengthy lecture about forgiveness. I responded to none of them. Mark texted once. "Can we talk?" I replied simply. "When you're ready to talk without Amelia or our parents, let me know." He didn't respond. The night before the wedding, I sat on my small balcony watching the sunset, expecting to feel grief or regret. Instead, I felt a surprising peace. Tomorrow, my brother would marry without me present. My parents would explain my absence however they chose, and I would continue building a life based on authenticity rather than appearances. I raised my wine glass to the fading light. To new beginnings, I whispered to myself, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled without effort. The morning of Mark's wedding dawned clear and bright, mocking my expectation of emotional storms. I'd prepared for this day, carefully scheduling a breakfast meeting with Jackson to discuss the exhibition space, followed by a full day of sketching at my favorite Harborside Cafe. No time for regrets or second-guessing. I dressed carefully in a cobalt blue dress that made me feel confident, applied light makeup, and was just gathering my portfolio when my phone rang. The screen displayed my cousin Sophie's name. I nearly sent it to voicemail but hesitated. Sophie had always been kind to me, more a friend than a relative. "Hello, Debbie? Oh, thank God you answered." Sophie's voice sounded frantic. "There's a problem at the wedding." "That's not my concern anymore," I said, more gently than I might have with another family member. "No, you don't understand. The caterer never showed up. Aunt Diane is having a meltdown and nobody knows what to do. The ceremony is in 6 hours and there's no food for 300 guests." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. "Sophie, I'm sorry that's happening, but I was very clearly uninvited." "I know, and that was horrible," she said quickly. "I told Aunt Diane as much. But Debbie, this is serious." Mark looked shell-shocked. "What about the wedding planner? The Prestons hired some exclusive coordinator, right? She's trying to find replacements, but it's Saturday in June. Everyone's booked. Please just... Can you think of anyone who might help? You know so many people in creative fields." I glanced at my watch. Still time to make my meeting with Jackson if I kept this brief. "I'll text you a couple of names. That's all I can do." "Thank you," Sophie sounded relieved. "And Debbie, for what it's worth, I think what they did was wrong. Really wrong." After hanging up, I sent Sophie contact information for 2 catering companies that might handle emergency situations, then pushed the wedding from my mind and headed to my meeting. Jackson was waiting at a downtown cafe, sketches and blueprints spread across a corner table. For an hour, we discussed the exhibition space dimensions, lighting, and theme possibilities. His enthusiasm for my work was both flattering and energizing. "We're thinking of a September opening," he said. "That gives you about 3 months to prepare. Is that feasible?" "Absolutely." I nodded already, mentally cataloging which existing pieces would work and what new ones I might create. We were discussing installation logistics when my phone buzzed repeatedly. 3 new messages from Sophie, one from my grandmother, and surprisingly, one from my mother. I excused myself briefly to check them. "Sophie Flowers delivered to wrong address. Nobody can find them. Grandma, your mother is asking for your help, dear. Consider it. Sophie photographer canceled last minute. Family emergency. Mom, Debbie, please call me. It's important. Sophie, everything is falling apart. Amelia is crying. Mark looks like he might pass out." I put my phone away, rejoining Jackson. "Sorry about that." "No problem," he smiled. "Family stuff?" "Something like that." I redirected the conversation to exhibition marketing plans, but my mind kept drifting to the cascade of wedding disasters. After the meeting, I walked to my car, intending to head to the Harbor Cafe as planned. Instead, I sat behind the wheel, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed again. "Mom, Debbie, I know we have no right to ask, but we need your help. Please." I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. This wasn't my problem. They had made that abundantly clear when they uninvited me. Whatever karmic retribution was unfolding at the Preston estate, I had no obligation to intervene. I was halfway to the harbor when my phone rang again. This time it was Mark. I pulled over and answered. Debbie. His voice sounded strained, almost unrecognizable. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. You don't, I agreed. Everything's gone wrong. I've never seen Amelia like this. Mom's having some kind of breakdown. The Prestons are talking about postponing the whole thing. I'm sorry to hear that. Deb, his voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. I should have defended you. I was so caught up in trying to impress Amelia's family that I forgot what actual family means. I remained silent, letting his words hang between us. I'm not asking you to come for them, he continued. I'm asking for me. Not because you owe me anything, but because you're the most capable person I know. You've always been able to fix things that seem impossible. Mark, I said finally, you're asking me to help salvage the very event I was told not to attend because I wasn't good enough to be seen there. I know. It's not fair. Another call beeped through. My grandmother. I need to take this, I told Mark, switching lines. Debbie, my grandmother said without preamble. I'm at the venue. It's chaos. No flowers, no music, no food, only panic. Grandma, they uninvited me. They said the family would be better without me. I know, dear. And they were terribly wrong. But right now there are choices to be made. You can let this wedding fail, which might feel like justice, or you can be the bigger person and help despite their treatment of you. Either way, I support you. Her words struck me deeply. This wasn't about my parents anymore, or even Mark. It was about who I wanted to be. Did I want to be someone who responded to hurt with more hurt, or someone who acted with integrity, regardless of how others had treated me? I made my decision. Tell them I'll be there in 20 minutes. But Grandma, this doesn't mean they're forgiven. This means I'm setting boundaries on my terms. I understand completely, she replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice. That's my girl. I turned my car around and headed toward the Preston estate, mentally preparing for the confrontation ahead. I wasn't doing this for my mother's approval or my father's acknowledgement. I was doing it because helping was within my power, and withholding help out of spite would only diminish me. As I pulled through the ornate gates of the estate, I saw immediately that my grandmother hadn't exaggerated. The manicured grounds were beautiful, but the atmosphere was anything but serene. Staff members rushed in all directions. Rental company employees argued with wedding planners. And in the center of it all stood my mother, looking smaller and older than I remembered, directing people with increasingly desperate gestures. I parked and walked toward the chaos, straightening my shoulders. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my terms. I approached the central tent, where most of the commotion seemed to be concentrated. Inside, I found a tableau of wedding day nightmares. Amelia sat on a gilt chair, still in her robe instead of her wedding dress, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Her mother hovered beside her, frantically texting. My father paced the perimeter, barking unsuccessful orders into his phone. Mark stood alone, looking lost in the center of the tent, still in jeans and a t-shirt, though the ceremony was hours away. My mother spotted me first. She froze mid-sentence, eyes widening. The tent gradually quieted as others noticed my arrival. Debbie, my mother finally managed. You came. I did, I replied evenly. I understand there are some logistical issues. An understatement that broke the tension. Mark gave a short, desperate laugh. You could say that. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Not everything, I corrected him. No one's been struck by lightning. Yet. I glanced meaningfully at the clear blue sky visible through the tent opening. I set my purse on a nearby table and addressed the room. I need someone to give me a complete rundown of exactly what's happened and what needs fixing. One person speaking clearly without dramatics. To everyone's surprise, Amelia stood up, wiped her face, and stepped forward. The caterer never showed up. They're not answering calls. The flowers were delivered to another venue 30 miles away. The photographer canceled an hour ago due to a family emergency. The string quartet is stuck in traffic on I-95 after an accident, and the wedding planner quit when my mother. She glanced at Martha Preston, expressed her displeasure somewhat colorfully. I nodded, appreciating her directness despite our history. Thank you. Now I need a list of everyone who's been contacted as replacement so I don't duplicate efforts. The wedding planner's assistant, a nervous young woman clutching a tablet, stepped forward. I have that information. We've called every caterer, florist, and photographer in the county. Everyone's booked. Let me see the list I requested, taking the tablet. I scrolled through, noting they'd contacted all the obvious high-end vendors, but I knew others they hadn't considered. I pulled out my phone and stepped away from the group, making my first call to Tasha's partner, Luis, who ran a successful food truck business that also offered catering. Luis, it's Debbie. I need a massive favor. I explained the situation briefly. I know it's last minute, but is there any way you could handle a wedding reception for 300 upscale, but not pretentious? There was a pause, then Luis's warm laugh. For anyone else, absolutely not. For you, let me make some calls. My cousin just expanded his operation. Between us, we might pull this off. Text me the address and details. One problem potentially solved. I moved on to flowers, calling Elaine, a client who owned a boutique garden shop specializing in native plants and unique arrangements. Elaine, I'm calling in that favor you offered when I redid your branding last year. 20 minutes and a dozen calls later, I returned to the tent. I've got solutions, but they won't be exactly what you planned. At this point, we'll take anything Mark said, while my mother and the Prestons looked more hesitant. Food is being arranged through Urban Street Cuisine. They'll provide a gourmet food station setup with locally sourced ingredients. It won't be the sit-down dinner you planned, but it will be excellent and abundant. A food truck company, Martha Preston looked horrified. At my daughter's wedding, not food trucks, I corrected, though I could arrange those instead if you prefer no food at all. Martha pressed her lips together but remained silent. Flowers are being handled by Wildflower Studio. They're bringing seasonal arrangements within the hour. Again, not the imported peonies and roses you ordered, but beautiful, fresh, and actually here. And photography, Amelia asked, looking more composed now that solutions were appearing. My friend Javier is on his way. He typically shoots fashion editorials, so he'll bring a high fashion sensibility to your wedding photos. He's bringing 2 assistants. Music, my father asked gruffly, the first words he'd spoken to me. The quartet is still trying to get here, but I've arranged for a jazz trio as backup. They can play classical arrangements for the ceremony if needed, then switch to reception music after. The tent had transformed. Where panic had reigned, minutes before there was now cautious optimism. Staff began moving with purpose, rather than confusion. Amelia disappeared, to finally start getting ready. The Prestons huddled with their remaining coordination team to adjust plans. Mark approached me alone. Deb, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, I replied. But you do need to talk to me. Really talk without the audience. He nodded, gesturing toward the gardens. We walked in silence until we reached a stone bench beneath a flowering dogwood far enough from the activity to speak privately. I should have stood up for you, he said without preamble. That night at dinner and all the times before that. Yes, you should have. I got caught up in everything the Prestons represent. The connections, the status, the approval. It felt like finally winning a game I'd been playing my whole life. I studied my brother's face, seeing not the golden child of our parents' making, but a man struggling with his own insecurities. You never needed to win, Mark. You were always enough for them. But never enough for myself, he admitted quietly. You were the brave one, Deb. You built a life you actually wanted while I just constructed one that would make them proud. Do you love Amelia? I asked directly. He looked surprised, then thoughtful. Yes, I do. Not because of her family or background. She's smarter than she lets people see, and funnier too. When we're alone away from all this, he gestured at the estate, she's completely different. Then marry her for those reasons, not for what her family represents. I will, he promised. And Debbie, I'm sorry. Truly sorry for letting you face them alone all these years. I accepted his apology with a nod. It didn't erase the past, but it opened a possibility for a different future. We returned to find the venue transformed. Luis and his team had arrived with portable kitchens and were setting up elegant food stations. Elaine's flowers were being arranged by her staff, wild and beautiful compositions that actually looked more expensive than the original plan. Javier was already capturing candid preparation moments with his signature artistic eye. My mother approached hesitantly. "Debbie, I don't know how you did this." "I have connections too," I replied, "just not the kind you and Dad valued." She flinched slightly but continued, "We were wrong. What we said to you, it was unforgivable." Yes, it was. I agreed, not making this easier for her. I've spent the past month making excuses for my behavior, blaming stress and wedding pressure. But the truth is, I've been unfair to you your entire life. I compared you to your brother instead of seeing you for yourself. It was the most honest thing my mother had ever said to me. I didn't respond immediately, letting her sit with the discomfort of her confession. "Thank you for coming today despite everything," she finally said. "It shows extraordinary character." "I didn't do it for you," I clarified. "I did it because I refuse to be the person who responds to cruelty with more cruelty." She nodded, tears threatening. "You're a better person than I raised you to be." "I am exactly the person I raised myself to be," I corrected her gently. We were interrupted by Amelia, now dressed in her wedding gown, looking transformed not just by the dress, but by a new humility in her expression. "Debbie, could I speak with you?" she asked. I excused myself from my mother and followed Amelia to a quiet corner. "I misjudged you," she said without preamble. "I saw your different style and career as threatening somehow. I was trying so hard to create this perfect family image that I couldn't see the actual person behind it." "Most people can't see past their own expectations," I replied. "It's a common human failing." Still, I was wrong to make Mark choose. He needs his sister. She hesitated. "If you want to be part of the ceremony, we could arrange it." I considered her offer, appreciating the gesture, but recognizing its limitations. "Thank you, but that's not necessary. I'm here on my terms, helping because I choose to, not because I need to be included." She looked surprised, then thoughtful. "I think I understand, and I respect that." As the ceremony time approached, the chaotic disaster had transformed into something unexpected. Not the pristine society page wedding originally planned, but something more authentic. Guests commented on the unique flowers and creative food stations as if they'd been the plan all along. The jazz trio played beautifully beneath the afternoon sundae, and throughout it all I observed from the periphery, helping when needed but maintaining my emotional distance. The ceremony itself was surprisingly touching. Mark's personally written vows spoke of growth and authenticity, words that caught my attention and made me wonder if our recent conversation had influenced him. Amelia, too, seemed less concerned with perfection and more present in the moment. As the reception began, I noticed my father watching me from across the tent. Eventually, he approached, looking uncomfortable but determined. "You saved this wedding," he said gruffly, "after how we treated you." "I did," I agreed simply. He cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been talking. We've been wrong about a lot of things, especially about you. Your career, your choices, we didn't understand." "You didn't try to understand," I corrected him. He nodded slowly. "That's fair, but I'm trying now." He gestured at the celebration around us. "You made this happen with one morning of phone calls. Connections we didn't even know you had. Maybe there's a lot about you we don't know." "There is," I confirmed. "The question is whether you're actually interested in learning or if this is just gratitude for saving today." My father looked genuinely chastened. "I deserve that. But I'd like a chance to do better if you're willing." "I'll consider it," I offered. "But it would require real change, not just temporary appreciation during a crisis." "I understand," he said, and for the first time I thought perhaps he did. As the evening progressed, I ensured everything ran smoothly, troubleshooting minor issues before they became problems. When I was confident the reception would continue without further drama, I quietly gathered my things. My job here was done not just the logistics I'd arranged, but the personal boundaries I'd established. I found my grandmother to say goodbye. She enveloped me in a warm hug. "I'm so proud of you, Debbie. You showed tremendous grace today." "I did it for me, not for them," I clarified. "I know," she smiled. "That's exactly why I'm proud." I slipped away as the dancing began unnoticed by most of the celebrating guests. In my car, I sent a quick text to Jackson. "Sorry about the delay. Still interested in discussing the exhibition tomorrow?" His reply came quickly. "Absolutely. Brunch at the Harbor Cafe, 11 a.m. I smiled and started the engine, leaving behind the Preston estate and driving toward my own future, one where I set the terms for my relationships and my art. I left the wedding reception before the cake cutting and final dances, quietly slipping away as guests swirled on the dance floor. The crisis had been averted, the day saved, but I had no desire to linger and pretend we were a normal, happy family. Whatever reconciliation might be possible would require time and effort, not a single day of forced togetherness. Jackson was waiting at the Harbor Cafe when I arrived the next morning, sketchpad open and coffee already ordered for both of us. His easy smile warmed something inside me that had been cold for too long. "Sorry about yesterday," I said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Family emergency." "No apologies needed," he replied, pushing my coffee toward me. "Though I admit I'm curious about what kind of emergency pulls someone like you away from an important career discussion." Someone like me. Focused, professional, clearly boundary-oriented. His assessment was surprisingly accurate for someone I'd only recently met. I found myself telling him an abbreviated version of the wedding saga, his expression shifting from surprise to admiration as I explained how I'd salvaged the day despite my family's previous rejection. "That's," he searched for the right word, "impressive. Not just the logistics, but the emotional maturity. Most people would have let the whole thing burn." "I considered it," I admitted, "but that would have made me more like them, not less." He nodded thoughtfully. "So, about this exhibition. I've been thinking about themes, and after seeing more of your portfolio, I wonder if you'd consider something about transformation or resilience." The conversation shifted to professional territory, but with a new layer of understanding between us. By the time we finished brunch, we had a solid concept for the exhibition, a timeline for installation, and plans to meet again the following week to view the space together. "This isn't just a corporate showcase," Jackson clarified as we parted. "I believe in your work, Debbie. This could be the beginning of something significant for your fine art career." His words stayed with me as I drove home, a counterpoint to years of my parents dismissing my hobby. Professional validation felt good, but even more important was my own growing confidence in my creative vision. I expected the following days to bring a flood of family communication after the wedding, apologies, thanks, perhaps even recriminations, once the emergency had passed. Instead, there was a strange silence. No calls from my parents, no texts from Mark. Only my grandmother checked in, confirming they'd all survived the remainder of the reception without further disasters. 3 days after the wedding, I was deep in preliminary sketches for the exhibition when my doorbell rang. Mark stood on my threshold alone, looking both exhausted and determined. "Can I come in?" he asked simply. I stepped aside, gesturing him into my apartment. He entered tentatively, taking in the colorful space with its art-covered walls and creative disarray. "I've never actually been to your place before," he realized aloud. "It's very you." "Thank you," I replied, though I wasn't entirely sure he meant it as a compliment. "Coffee?" He nodded, and I busied myself in the kitchen while he continued examining my living space, pausing in front of a mixed media piece I'd created during the weeks after being uninvited from his wedding. "This is incredible," he said, studying the layers of color and texture. "Did you make it?" "I did." "You're really talented, Deb. I mean, I knew you were good, but this island, museum quality." The sincere appreciation in his voice caught me off guard. I handed him his coffee and gestured toward the sofa. What brings you here, Mark? Shouldn't you be on your honeymoon? We postponed it, he explained, sitting carefully on the edge of the cushion. After everything that happened, we needed time to reconsider some things. What things? Everything. He set his mug down untouched. Debbie, I came to apologize properly. Not in the middle of a crisis, not with others listening. Just me telling you how sorry I am for years of letting you down. I remained silent, giving him space to continue. After you left the reception, things kept functioning because of the systems you'd put in place. But the whole time, I kept thinking about how wrong it was that you weren't there to see it through, to be thanked properly, to be included. He leaned forward earnestly. It made me realize how many times in our lives I've accepted the benefits of your efforts without acknowledging them. From helping me with school projects to covering for me with Dad when I messed up. You've always been there for me, and I've never truly been there for you. His words touched a long-buried hurt. No, you haven't. I want to change that, he said, simply. Not with grand gestures or temporary fixes, real change over time. What does that look like to you? I asked, genuinely curious. Regular contact. Actually knowing what's happening in your life. Supporting your career instead of dismissing it. Standing up to our parents when they're wrong about you. He hesitated. And maybe. Meeting the real Mark instead of the perfect son I've been pretending to be. The real Mark. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Yeah, the one who's actually terrible at finance but pretended to love it to please Dad. The one who'd rather be teaching history than working at an investment firm. The one who's been having panic attacks for years, but never told anyone because walkers don't show weakness. This vulnerable confession shifted something between us. For the first time, I saw my brother, not as my parents' golden child, but as another casualty of their impossible expectations. Does Amelia know this version of you? I asked. He nodded. She does now. After the wedding chaos, we had some honest conversations about what we both really want versus what our families expect. Turns out she's been playing a role too. We talked for hours, mining decades of shared history from vastly different perspectives. The conversation wasn't easy, with painful truths acknowledged on both sides, but it felt cleansing, like lancing a wound to finally let it heal. When Mark finally left, we had made no grand promises, but we had established a tentative new beginning. Real reconciliation would take time and consistent effort, but for the first time it seemed possible. The confrontation with my parents came a week later. They requested a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant halfway between our homes. I arrived to find them already seated, looking uncomfortable in the casual setting they'd never have chosen before. Debbie, my mother began as soon as I sat down. We owe you an apology. Many apologies, actually. Yes, you do. I agreed, not making this easier for them. My father cleared his throat. What we said to you before the wedding was unforgivable. We've spent the past weeks trying to understand how we could have treated our own daughter so cruelly. And have you figured it out? I asked evenly. They exchanged glances. My mother spoke first. I think we've spent so many years defining success in only one way that we became blind to other forms of achievement and fulfillment. When you chose a different path, we saw it as rejection of our values rather than you establishing your own. It was more insight than I'd expected from her. My father nodded in agreement. The wedding day showed us how wrong we've been, he continued. You solved problems we couldn't even begin to address, using connections and skills we'd dismissed for years. It made us question everything we thought we knew about success. I appreciate that realization, I said carefully. But one day of crisis management doesn't erase years of dismissal and criticism. We know, my mother said quickly. We're not expecting immediate forgiveness, but we'd like a chance to rebuild our relationship on new terms. What terms do you propose? I asked. They looked surprised by the directness of my question. My father recovered first. We want to understand your world better, he offered. Your art, your career, your choices. Not to judge, but to learn. And we want to establish healthier boundaries, my mother added. No more unsolicited advice or criticism. No more comparisons. I considered their words carefully. Those are good starting points. I have conditions of my own. Of course, they both nodded eagerly. I'll consider rebuilding our relationship if you commit to family therapy. Not just one session for show, but ongoing work with a professional to address the patterns that got us here. They looked startled but didn't refuse. And I need acknowledgement that my career is valid and valuable. Not just in moments of crisis when my connections save the day, but consistently. That's fair, my father conceded. Most importantly, I continued, I need you to understand that I'm offering a chance at a new relationship, not resuming the old one. I won't be attending weekly family dinners or holiday gatherings until we've established a foundation of mutual respect. The terms were clear, my boundaries firm. To my surprise, they accepted without argument, perhaps finally understanding the precariousness of their position in my life. We began family therapy the following week. The sessions were often uncomfortable, sometimes heated, but gradually productive. Our therapist, Dr. Reeves, skillfully guided us through decades of damaging patterns, helping my parents recognize their controlling behaviors and me acknowledge my part in maintaining unhealthy dynamics. Progress came in small moments. My mother asking questions about my creative process without veiled criticism. My father mentioning my recent project to a colleague without apologizing for my career choice. Mark and I establishing a weekly call that slowly rebuilt our sibling bond. 3 months after the wedding, my exhibition opened at the tech company's new headquarters. Jackson had transformed the space into a stunning gallery, showcasing my mixed media explorations of identity and transformation. The night of the opening, I stood nervously among the gathering crowd, watching as art critics, collectors, and curious employees examined my work. "They love it," Jackson murmured, appearing beside me with champagne. The San Francisco gallery owner I told you about is particularly interested in the Central series. I accepted the glass, gratefully scanning the room. To my surprise, I spotted my family entering tentatively. My parents, Mark and Amelia, my grandmother, and even a few extended relatives moved hesitantly through the space, clearly outside their comfort zone, but making the effort. My mother approached, first studying a piece titled Reclamation with Genuine Attention. "This is extraordinary, Debbie," she said quietly. "The layering technique creates such depth." "Thank you," I replied, noting the absence of qualifiers or comparisons in her compliment. "Your father and I were talking on the drive over," she continued. "We realized we've never properly supported your artistic journey. We'd like to change that if you're open to it." "How so?" I asked cautiously. "We'd like to attend your future exhibitions, learn more about the art world, maybe even start collecting your work." She looked almost shy, making this suggestion. "If that wouldn't be strange for you." The gesture touched me unexpectedly. That would be nice, actually. My father joined us, looking around with uncharacteristic humility. "This is impressive, Debbie. Far beyond what I imagined when you talked about your art." Coming from him, this was significant acknowledgement. "Thank you, Dad." As the evening progressed, I moved between professional connections and family members, no longer feeling I had to choose between worlds. The reconciliation wasn't perfect or complete. There were still awkward moments and old triggers, but it was progressing honestly. Later, standing alone by the window overlooking the city lights, I reflected on the journey of the past few months. The painful rejection had ultimately forced a necessary confrontation with patterns too long accepted. The wedding crisis had revealed strengths I might never have fully recognized in myself otherwise. Jackson joined me at the window. "Successful night," he observed. 3 pieces sold already, and the gallery owner wants to discuss representation." "It feels surreal," I admitted. "A few months ago, I was the family disappointment with a hobby. Now I'm a legitimate artist with gallery interest." "You were always legitimate," he corrected gently. "The only difference is, now others see what was always there." His words crystallized something important. My worth had never been determined by my family's recognition or professional validation. It had always existed independently, waiting for me to fully claim it. The true transformation wasn't in how others now saw me, but in how I saw myself. not as someone fighting for approval, but as someone worthy of setting standards for how I would be treated. The strongest family bonds weren't built on obligation or perfection, but on mutual respect and the courage to establish healthy boundaries. As the exhibition attendees mingled around my art and physical manifestations of my journey from invisibility to self-expression, I realized that the greatest gift my family had ultimately given me was the push to finally art and aced, completely believe in my own value. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who couldn't see your true worth? Drop a comment below sharing your experience. Sometimes the hardest part of loving our families is teaching them how to love us properly in return. If my story resonated with you today, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by family approval. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, the family we choose can be just as important as the family we're born into.
After a bad car accident, I asked her to pick me up from the ER. She replied, "Sorry, I'm at lunch with my male best friend, can't just leave." I texted, "Okay." What the police officer told her when they approached her table at the restaurant changed everything about her dinner with her friend. You learn a lot about people in a crisis. I know this because I'm a paramedic. I see people on the worst day of their lives, every single day. I see how they react, how they treat each other when the sirens are wailing and the world is falling apart. I've seen strangers hold hands with the dying. I've seen husbands weep over their injured wives. I've seen the absolute best of humanity in the absolute worst of times. And then there was my girlfriend, Kate, and a car accident that showed me the absolute truth of her character. We had been together for 2 years. We lived in my apartment, a place I'd worked my tail off to afford. On the surface, things were good. She was fun, beautiful, and the life of every party. I was the quiet, stable one. I thought we were a good match. I provided the calm, and she provided the excitement. The only real point of friction was her male best friend, a guy named Julian. Julian was a trust fund kid who worked as a consultant, which seemed to mean he had lunch at expensive restaurants 4 times a week and offered unsolicited advice. Kate and Julian were inseparable. Their bond was, as she always described it, special. They had inside jokes I was never a part of, and their text conversations were constant and secretive. I'm not a jealous guy by nature. My job has taught me to be calm under pressure. But the closeness between them always felt off. It felt like I was the third wheel in their 2-person story. Still, I trusted her. I chose to believe her when she said they were just friends. That trust was violently and permanently shattered last Tuesday. I was on my way home from a long shift. It was raining hard. A kid in a souped-up Civic ran a red light and T-boned me right in the driver's side door. It was a brutal impact. The world was a chaotic mess of screeching metal, shattering glass, and the sickening crunch of my car folding in around me. The next thing I remember is my colleagues, my fellow paramedics, pulling me out of the wreckage. I was strapped to a backboard, my head was pounding, and my left arm was definitely broken. As they were loading me into the ambulance, a police officer I knew, a good cop named Dave, leaned in. "Hey man," he said, his face grim. "Your car is totaled. We're having it towed. We need an emergency contact to notify about the accident and the vehicle's location. Who do you want us to call?" "My girlfriend, Kate," I managed to say through the pain. I gave him her number. The ride to the ER was a blur. They cut my uniform off me, pumped me full of painkillers, and started running tests. X-rays confirmed it. A clean break in my left humerus and a moderate concussion. No internal bleeding, thank God. I was beaten up, bruised from head to toe, but I was going to be okay. After about an hour, a nurse came in. "We've tried calling your emergency contact, Kate, a few times," she said. "No answer. Is there someone else we can call?" My heart sank. No answer? I knew exactly where she was. It was Tuesday. Tuesday was her standing long lunch day with Julian. I pulled out my phone with my good hand. My screen was shattered, but it still worked. I sent her a text. "Hey, I've been in a bad car accident. I'm in the ER at St. Mary's. My arm is broken. Can you come pick me up? Car is totaled." I waited. A few minutes later, the 3 little dots appeared. Then, her reply. It was a message that would change the entire course of my life. Kate, OMG, that's awful. So sorry to hear that. But I'm actually in the middle of a really important lunch with Julian right now. Can't just leave. Can you get a taxi or something? Let me know how it goes. I read the text once. Then I read it again. I felt a strange, cold clarity wash over me, cutting through the haze of the painkillers. She wasn't just dismissing me. She was prioritizing a social lunch with another man over my genuine, verifiable emergency. I was in the hospital, and she was worried about interrupting her appetizer. The final pillar of our relationship had just crumbled into dust. I thought about the police officer, Dave. I thought about the fact that they still needed to make official contact with her. And a plan began to form. A cold, precise, and beautifully appropriate plan. I took a screenshot of her text message, then I texted back a single word. Okay. Then I called Officer Dave. Hey Dave, I said, my voice steady. It's Adam Sterling. Thanks for your help at the scene. Listen, I know you guys were trying to reach my emergency contact, Kate. She's not answering her phone, but I know exactly where she is. It's important you make contact with her to complete the report. She's at a restaurant called the Gilded Spoon, downtown. I think it's crucial that an officer speaks to her in person to inform her of the situation. Dave, being a good cop and a good friend, understood immediately. No problem, Adam, he said, a new edge in his voice. We'll dispatch a unit right away to make an in-person notification. You just focus on getting better. I hung up the phone. I leaned back against the hospital pillows. Kate was having a very important lunch. I had a feeling it was about to be interrupted. Update 1. The hour I spent waiting in that ER bed was one of the most clarifying of my life. The physical pain was still there, a dull, throbbing ache in my arm and my head, but the emotional pain had been replaced by a kind of icy resolve. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound, that it had short-circuited all my normal feelings of hurt and sadness. All that was left was a quiet, focused anger and a need for decisive action. My friend and colleague Mike, who had been on the ambulance that brought me in, came to check on me. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. And it wasn't just the broken arm. "What's up, man?" he asked. "You look like you're about to declare war." I showed him the text from Kate. He read it and his face hardened. "You're kidding me," he said, his voice low. "She chose lunch over this, with that Julian guy?" "She did," I confirmed. "So what are you gonna do?" he asked. "I already did it," I said. "I had the police dispatched to her restaurant to make an in-person notification." Mike stared at me for a second, and then he let out a low whistle. "Dude, that is savage and brilliant." The story of what happened at the Gilded Spoon came to me later from Officer Dave, who had heard it directly from the 2 patrol officers he had sent. It was even better than I had imagined. The Gilded Spoon is one of those places that's all about appearances. It's expensive, it's trendy, and it's always filled with people who want to be seen. Kate and Julian were apparently seated at a prime table near the window, laughing and sharing a bottle of overpriced rosé. 2 uniformed police officers walked into the restaurant. The place immediately went quiet. Cops don't just show up at a place like that for no reason. People started staring, whispering. The officers walked calmly and deliberately through the dining room, their eyes scanning the tables. They stopped directly at Kate and Julian's table. One of the officers, a tall, imposing guy with a serious face, looked directly at Kate. "Ma'am, are you Kate Miller?" he asked, his voice calm but loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear clearly. Kate looked up, her face a mask of confusion and annoyance. "Yes," she said. "Is there a problem, officer? We're here regarding a major vehicle collision involving your partner, Mr. Adam Sterling," the officer stated, his tone flat and official. He was transported by ambulance to St. Mary's Hospital from the scene of the accident with significant injuries. The color drained from Kate's face. Julian was staring, his wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. The officer continued, his voice unwavering. "His vehicle was totaled in the collision. We have been attempting to contact you for the last 2 hours as you are listed as his primary emergency contact. Mr. Sterling informed us we could find you here. He asked us to make official, in-person notification of the incident and to inform you that you will need to coordinate with the towing company regarding the removal of any personal effects from the vehicle." Every word was a hammer blow. major vehicle collision, transported by ambulance, significant injuries, vehicle totaled, emergency contact. The officer wasn't accusing her of anything. He was just stating the cold, hard, official facts. But in doing so, he was painting a picture for everyone in that restaurant to see. A man was in the hospital after a serious accident, and his girlfriend, his emergency contact, was enjoying a leisurely lunch with another man, completely unreachable. Julian, according to the story, looked at Kate with a new expression. The charming lunch companion was gone, replaced by a man looking at a stranger who had just revealed a core of shocking selfishness. The officer concluded his speech. "That is all, ma'am. You should probably head to the hospital." The two officers then turned and walked out of the restaurant as calmly as they had entered. They left behind a crater of silence, a table of half-eaten food, and the shattered reputation of a woman who had just been publicly exposed at her most callous. Her very important lunch was officially over. Update 2. The immediate aftermath was a predictable storm of chaos, which I observed from the calm, safe harbor of my hospital room. After being discharged from the ER with my arm in a sling and a handful of prescriptions, my sister came to pick me up. She had been my real emergency contact all along, and I had called her as soon as I was done with the police. The fury in her voice when I told her the story about Kate was enough to power a small city. She took me back to her place to recover. I had no intention of going back to my apartment until it had been purged of Kate's presence. Kate, of course, started blowing up my phone. A string of frantic texts and missed calls. "Adam, I'm on my way to the hospital. I'm so sorry, my phone was on silent." A classic, pathetic lie. "Where are you? They said you were discharged. Why aren't you answering me? I'm freaking out." "This is all your fault. You sent the cops to my lunch to humiliate me." The progression from feigned concern to furious accusation was swift and telling. I didn't reply to any of it. I just blocked her number. The real story of her afternoon came from Julian. He, it turns out, was not interested in being a supporting character in her drama. He sent me a message on social media that evening. It was surprisingly direct. "Hey Adam," it read. "I don't know you well, but I was with Kate at lunch today. I just want you to know that I had no idea about your accident." The second the police left, I paid my half of the bill and got out of there. The way she dismissed something so serious, that's not a person I want to be associated with. I'm sorry for whatever part I played in your relationship issues. I'm done with her. Hope you have a fast recovery. It was a self-serving message, of course, designed to absolve himself of any guilt. But it confirmed my victory. I hadn't just humiliated her. I had exposed her true character to the very person she was trying to impress. She had lost her boyfriend and her best friend in the same afternoon. With my sister's help, I put the rest of my plan into motion. While I rested, she acted as my general. She called a moving company that specialized in content removal for breakups. She met them at my apartment the next day. They packed every single thing Kate owned, every piece of clothing, every shoe, every book, into boxes. They were instructed to leave the boxes neatly stacked in the living room. Then, my sister called a locksmith. The locks were changed. Finally, she sent a formal email to Kate from a new email address. The subject line was "Retrieval of Personal Property." The email read, "Kate, this email is to inform you that your relationship with Adam Sterling has been terminated. As you are not on the lease for his apartment, your residency has also been terminated. All of your personal belongings have been packed. You have a 48-hour window to arrange for their professional removal. You are to contact me, Adam's sister, at this email address to schedule a specific 2-hour time slot. You will be met at the property and allowed entry for the sole purpose of removing your belongings. You will not be permitted to remain in the apartment afterward. If your property is not removed within the 48-hour window, it will be considered abandoned and will be disposed of. Any attempt to contact Adam directly will be considered harassment." It was cold, it was legal, and it was final. She had abandoned me in my moment of need. I was now treating her with the same impersonal, logistical detachment. Final update. It has been 7 months since the accident. My arm has healed, the concussion is a distant memory, and my life is blessedly, wonderfully quiet. Kate, As instructed, coordinated with my sister to retrieve her belongings. The story I got was that she showed up with her father, looking sullen and defeated. She didn't say a word the entire time. She just directed the movers her father had hired, cleared out her boxes, and left the key on the counter. The social fallout for her was, from what I hear, absolute. The story of the police showing up at the Gilded Spoon became a legendary piece of gossip in her social circle. It was a story with no good spin. No one could defend her actions. She was the woman who chose brunch over her boyfriend in the ER. Her attempts to paint me as a manipulative villain failed spectacularly because the core facts were so damning. She lost most of her friends, not because they were loyal to me, but because they were embarrassed to be associated with her. She tried to reach out to me about a month ago. A long, rambling email full of excuses and non-apologies. She said she had panicked. She said she wasn't thinking clearly. She said Julian had put a lot of pressure on her. It was a masterclass in blame shifting. She concluded by saying she missed me and the stable life we had, and that she had learned her lesson. I didn't reply. I just created a new filter in my email to send anything from her address directly to the trash. Her lesson was not my concern. My revenge was not about the police or the public scene. That was just the delivery mechanism. The real revenge was in the quiet, decisive way I excised her from my life. She had treated me as an inconvenience, a background character in her exciting life. So I simply wrote her out of my script. I took the life I had built, the stability she had taken for granted, and I made it mine again, completely and totally. The most satisfying part is the quiet knowledge that I saw the truth and acted on it without hesitation. A relationship is a partnership, and the first rule of a partnership is that you show up when it counts. She didn't just fail the test, she set the test paper on fire and walked away laughing. The look on her face when the police officer approached her table was just the first consequence. The empty apartment, the silent phone, the life she lost, those were the real lessons. She couldn't risk getting sick before her fun trip. In the end, I was the one who was cured. I got rid of the sickness in my life, and that sickness was her. My girlfriend said, "You're boring. I need someone more exciting like Sarah." I nodded. I understand. Then I transferred my half of our joint savings to my new account. Her panic when the rent check bounced and Sarah wouldn't answer her calls. I, 29 male, got dumped in the most soul-crushing way possible last Thursday. My girlfriend Mia, 27, and I had been together for 3 years, living together for the last 18 months. I thought we were solid, planning a future, talking about engagement rings, the whole deal. Then she drops this on me over breakfast. "Derek, we need to talk. You're boring. Like, painfully boring. All you do is work, come home, cook dinner, and watch documentaries. Where's the spontaneity? The passion?" Sarah takes me to underground raves, exclusive parties, yacht weekends. She makes me feel alive. Sarah, 31, was Mia's new friend from her yoga studio. Rich, trust fund kid who threw money around like confetti. I'd met her twice. Both times she looked at me like I was furniture. "So you're breaking up with me for Sarah?" I asked, weirdly calm. Mia rolled her eyes. "Not for her, but she showed me what I'm missing. I need excitement, Derek, adventure, not another night watching Planet Earth and meal prepping." "I understand," I said quietly. She seemed surprised. "That's it? No fight? No begging? You've made your decision. When are you moving out?" "Oh, I'm not moving anywhere. This is my apartment too. I figured you'd leave." Sarah said I could crash at her penthouse whenever I need space from this. She gestured vaguely at our admittedly modest but comfortable apartment. Here's the thing Mia forgot. We had a joint savings account for our future. Wedding, house down payment, whatever. We'd both been contributing equally, about $22K total. My name was on it, her name was on it. Either of us could withdraw without the other's signature. "Okay," I said. "I'll figure something out." She left for work looking confused but pleased. Probably expected more drama. I called in sick to work. Then I went straight to the bank. Withdrew exactly half. $11,000. Opened a new personal account. Deposited it all. Clean, legal, simple. My money. Then I started apartment hunting. Found a decent studio available immediately. Put down first month, last month, and security deposit. $4,500 gone, but worth it for the peace of mind. Started packing my stuff while she was at work. Just the essentials first. Clothes, laptop, important documents. The rest could wait. She texted around lunch. Thanks for being mature about this. Sarah's taking me to Cabo next week. So excited. I replied, enjoy. That evening, she came home to me loading boxes into my car. Wow, you're really leaving tonight? Tomorrow morning officially, just getting a head start. She shrugged. Probably for the best. Oh, can you leave your half of next month's rent? It's due in a few days. Sure, I lied. She spent that night at Sarah's. I spent it moving everything I owned. Friday morning, I left my key on the counter with a note. All yours now. Good luck with the adventure. Update 1. The panic calls started Monday afternoon. 62 missed calls. Here's a selection of the voicemails, transcribed for your entertainment. Derek, the rent check bounced. There's only $37 in the account. Where's the money? Call me back. Derek, what the fuck? You took half the savings? That's our money for our future. This is theft. I'm calling the police. You can't just take money from a joint account. Okay, I called the bank. They said it was legal, but that's BS. You owe me that money. I have bills. 5:01 p.m. Sarah's not answering my calls. I was supposed to go to Cabo with her. She said the ticket was taken care of, but now she's ghosting me. This is your fault somehow. 4:45 p.m. Please, Derek, I can't afford this place alone. Be reasonable. I texted back once. You wanted excitement. Figuring out adulting solo should be quite the adventure. Then I blocked her number. But the drama was just beginning. Her sister Tara started blowing up my phone. Her mom, her best friend Jenna, all with the same message. How could you leave her with nothing? To which I responded, before blocking, I left her with exactly what she had before me, and Sarah, apparently. Tuesday morning, Jenna actually showed up at my office. Security wouldn't let her up, but she waited in the lobby. Derek, please, 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Mia's freaking out. The landlord's threatening eviction if she doesn't pay the full rent. Sarah completely ghosted her after finding out Mia's broke. She needs that money back. That money was half mine, Jenna. I took my half. But you know she can't afford that place alone. Then she should have thought about that before dumping me for being boring. This is cruel. You planned this. No, Jenna, she planned to keep living her comfortable life funded partially by the boring guy she dumped. I just declined to subsidize her adventure. She called me some choice names and stormed off. That evening, I got a notification that I'd been tagged in an Instagram post. Mia had gone nuclear. When you think you know someone for 3 years and they turn out to be a financial abuser. This man, with my face circled in red, stole money from our joint account and left me homeless. Living his best life while I suffer. Beware, ladies. The comments were hilarious. Half were calling me trash. The other half were asking why she couldn't afford her own apartment if she was so independent. Someone commented, wait, didn't you just post about going to Cabo with that rich girl? What happened? Mia deleted the post an hour later. Update 2, so the Cabo trip. Oh man, the Cabo trip deserves its own update. Turns out Sarah never actually bought Mia a ticket. She just said, don't worry about it, I got you, which Mia interpreted as, I bought your ticket. Classic miscommunication between someone who speaks rich and someone who doesn't. When Mia showed up at the airport Thursday morning, after somehow scraping together Uber money, Sarah was already through security. Mia called her, and this is what Sarah allegedly said, according to Jenna, who heard it from Mia. Oh, did you think I meant I already bought your ticket? I meant I'd Venmo you after. It's like $400. No big deal, right? Mia had $73 in her checking account. Sarah, I can't afford that. Can you buy it and I'll pay you back? That's awkward. I don't really do loans. Maybe this trip isn't for you? We can catch up when I get back. Sarah went to Cabo. Mia went home and cried. But the entitlement wasn't done. Friday afternoon, I got served with papers. I kid you not. She actually went to a lawyer. Well, lawyer is generous. It was some paralegal service that helps people file small claims. She was suing me for $11,000 return of stolen funds, $2,400, her half of rent for next 3 months because I abandoned the lease, $5,000 emotional distress, $600 the Cabo trip she couldn't take because I financially abused her. Total, $19,000. I laughed so hard I scared my new neighbor. I hired an actual lawyer. Cost me $300 for a consultation and response letter, worth every penny for what he wrote. Miss Reeves's claims are without merit. Mr. Thompson withdrew his rightful 50% from a joint account, which is entirely legal. He provided notice to vacate as required. The lease explicitly states each tenant is jointly and severally liable for rent. Miss Reeves chose to maintain a residence she cannot afford alone after ending the relationship. The claimed emotional distress is self-inflicted, as is the missed vacation. We recommend Miss Reeves withdraw this frivolous claim immediately, or we will countersue for legal fees and harassment. But wait, there's more. Saturday night, 11 p.m., buzzing at my new apartment. I check the camera app. It's Mia. She's clearly drunk. Over the intercom, "Mia, you can't be here." "Derek, please. I'm sorry. I messed up. Sarah's a witch. You were right. Go home, Mia." "I am home. They locked me out. I'm 3 days late on rent and they changed the locks. Is that even legal?" It's not, but I wasn't about to give her legal advice. Call someone else. Everyone's mad at me. Jenna says I'm a user. Tara won't answer. Mom says I made my bed. Uber home. With what money? "Derek, I'm homeless. Please." I almost caved. Almost. Then I remembered her face when she called me boring. The disgust. The contempt. "There's a shelter on 5th Street. Good luck." I turned off the intercom. She sat outside for an hour before someone, not me, called the cops about a disturbance. They gave her a ride somewhere. Not my problem. Monday morning, the small claims court sent a notice that she'd withdrawn her case. Guess that lawyer's letter worked. Then came the extinction. Wait, no. Actually, it wasn't an extinction burst. It was weirder. She got a job. A second job, actually. Saw her through the Starbucks window, wearing the green apron, looking dead inside. Her Instagram went from living my best life posts to radio silence. But the entitlement came back Tuesday. Her mom called from a different number. "Derek, don't hang up." "Mrs. Reeves, what do you want?" "Mia's staying with me. She's learned her lesson. She knows she messed up. Would you consider giving her another chance?" "Absolutely not. She's working 2 jobs to try to save up first and last month's rent for a new place. Don't you think she's been punished enough?" "I didn't punish her. She's experiencing consequences." "You could help her. You have that money." "My money. That she contributed to. And she's welcome to the $11K she contributed." "Oh wait, she already withdrew that last month for Sarah's birthday party, remember? The one I wasn't exciting enough to attend?" Silence. Yeah, that's right. Mia had actually withdrawn her half a month before dumping me to throw Sarah an elaborate birthday party on a yacht. I'd been the only one contributing to the savings after that. The $11K I took? That was literally just my own money I'd put in over the last month. "She didn't tell me that part," Mrs. Reeves said quietly. "She leaves out a lot of parts." She hung up. Update 3. This is probably my final update because the situation has reached its natural conclusion. Last week, I ran into Jenna at Trader Joe's. She looked embarrassed to see me. "Hey Derek, how are you?" "Good. You?" "Fine. Listen, about everything that happened. Water under the bridge, Jenna." "No, I need to say this. I was wrong. Mia lied to all of us. She made it sound like you just disappeared with all the money. She didn't mention she'd already taken her half, or that she dumped you for literally no reason except you weren't rich enough." "Cool. She's not doing well. Living with her mom, working constantly, still trying to hang around Sarah's group, but they all know she's broke now, so sorry to hear that. Are you though?" I thought about it. Actually, yeah, I am sorry. I loved her. But she showed me who she really was, and I'm grateful she did it before we got married or had kids. Jenna nodded. For what it's worth, she knows she ruined everything. She talks about you constantly, about how good you were to her. Being boring has its perks, I guess. "You were never boring, Derek. You were stable. There's a difference." I thanked her and continued shopping. Then yesterday happened. Got a knock on my door around 7 p.m. It's Mia. She looks exhausted. Starbucks uniform still on, hair in a messy bun, no makeup. Basically the opposite of the Instagram goddess who dumped me for being boring. "Hi," she says. "You can't be here, Mia." "I know, I need to say something. Can I have 2 minutes?" I don't let her in, but I stand in the doorway. 2 minutes. I fucked up, royally, completely. I had everything with you, stability, love, a future, and I threw it away for, what? Instagram stories? Boat parties? Sarah doesn't even know my middle name. She invited 12 people to Cabo and I was the only one who couldn't afford to go. Do you know how humiliating that was? That sounds rough. I've been working 65 hours a week between both jobs. I clear maybe $2,800 a month after taxes. Rent anywhere decent is $1,800 minimum. I can't afford to eat out, can't afford new clothes, can't afford anything. Sarah's group calls me Starbucks now, not even my name, just Starbucks. Mia, what do you want? Nothing. I mean, I want you back, but I know that's impossible. I want my old life back, but I destroyed it. I guess I just wanted you to know that I know now. What I had, what I lost, what an idiot I was. Okay, she waited, maybe hoping for more. When nothing came, she nodded. You were never boring, Derek. You were safe. And I was too stupid to know that safe was what I actually needed. She left. I watched from my window as she waited at the bus stop. Yeah, the bus. No more Ubers for Mia. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sympathy, just nothing. Like watching a movie I'd already seen. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I almost didn't read it, then curiosity won. It was Sarah. Hey Derek, weird question, but is Mia always so dramatic about money? She keeps asking to borrow, like $50 here and there, and it's getting awkward. Anyway, you dodged a bullet. Drink sometime? I deleted it without responding and blocked the number. Then I made myself a nice dinner. Salmon with asparagus and quinoa. Watched a documentary about deep ocean creatures. Did some meal prep for the week. Texted this girl from my building's gym who'd asked me to spot her last week. We're getting coffee Thursday. Living my boring life. And honestly, it's exactly exciting enough for me. Final update. Wasn't going to update again, but something happened that felt like actual closure. I'm dating Monica now, the girl from the gym. She's a software engineer, likes documentaries, and thinks meal prep is relationship goals. We do exciting things like farmers market Saturdays and trying to perfect homemade ramen. It's wonderful. Last week I got an email from Mia. Subject line, please read, not asking for anything. Derek, my therapist, yes, mom's making me go, suggested I write this. Not to send, just to write. But I need you to know. I'm not going to apologize again or make excuses. You've heard it all. Instead, I wanted to tell you what I've learned. I thought boring meant dead. Routine meant trapped. Stability meant settling. I thought love was supposed to be this constant high, this movie moment feeling. Sarah's world was all peaks, yacht parties, exclusive clubs, champagne at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I thought that was living. But peaks have valleys. And when you live for peaks, you spend most of your time in valleys, broke and exhausted, begging for the next high. You were never boring. You were consistent. Every day with you was good. Not amazing, not terrible, just good. Breakfast together, inside jokes, knowing you'd be there when I got home. I didn't realize that 1,000 good days are worth more than 10 amazing ones. I'm living with my mom. I work 2 jobs, I take the bus. I eat ramen, the packet kind, not homemade like we used to make. Sarah doesn't know I exist anymore. Her friends laugh when they see me at Starbucks. I'm the cautionary tale they tell new girls. Don't be like Starbucks. Secure the bag before you leave your man. But here's the thing. I needed this. I needed to fall this hard to understand what I had. I was entitled, spoiled, and cruel. I treated you like an ATM with feelings. I thought I deserved excitement and adventure just for existing, not realizing you were funding my ability to even think that way. I'm not asking for forgiveness or another chance. I know that bridge is ash. I just wanted you to know that you won, not because you got revenge or hurt me back, but because you were right. About everything. About who I was, what I valued, and what would happen when the money ran out. Sarah posted from Cabo yesterday. Different girl in every photo. None of them were the ones from before. Turns out even rich girls are replaceable when newer, prettier, more exciting ones come along. I commented, looks fun. And she didn't even heart it. I'm already forgotten. Meanwhile, I still have that stupid box of your stuff I forgot to pack. Your college sweatshirt. The cookbook we bought at that used bookstore. The mug that says world's okayest boyfriend that I got you as a joke but you used every morning. I won't bother you with it, but sometimes I wear the sweatshirt and pretend I'm still the girl who got to wake up next to someone who made her coffee exactly how she liked it every single morning without being asked. Boring sounds pretty good right now. Mia P.S. Congratulations on Monica. Jenna showed me her Instagram. She looks nice, like she appreciates what she has. I read it twice, felt something. Not love, not hate, maybe pity, maybe closure. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I got a Venmo notification. Mia had sent me $50. The note said, first installment, I'll pay it all back. My half I took early. I thought about refusing it, then I accepted it. Not because I need $50, but because she needs to do this. She needs to make it right, even if it takes her years of $50 payments. Monica saw the notification. Your ex? Yeah. She paying you back? Trying to. Good for her. Growth is growth. This is why I love Monica. No drama, no jealousy, just understanding. Yesterday Jenna texted, Mia got promoted to shift supervisor. It's not much, but she's rebuilding. Thought you'd want to know. I didn't respond, but I was glad, I guess. Not for her sake, but for the sake of the person she might become. Looking back at this whole mess, the funniest part is that she was right about one thing. I am boring. Predictable, stable, reliable, boring. And you know what? Boring paid my bills. Boring saved money. Boring moved on. Boring found someone better. Boring won. Exciting is broke. Living with her mom and serving lattes to the people she used to party with. I'll take boring any day. The night before our wedding, my fiancé's bridesmaid accidentally added me to their group chat, where she wrote, "Don't worry, I'll still sneak away with my ex before the honeymoon." I just read in silence. The next morning, she found out why no groom showed up. It was 11 p.m. the night before my wedding. I should have been trying to get some sleep, maybe having a quiet drink with my brother. Instead, I was sitting on the edge of a bed in a fancy hotel suite, staring at my phone and watching my entire future burn to the ground in real time. The weirdest part? I didn't feel a thing. Let's start from the top. I'm Ben, 35. I own a catering company. I spend my life making other people's big days perfect. It's a stressful job, but I'm good at it. For the last 3 years, the big day I was planning was my own. My fiancée Olivia was the classic girl next door type. Sweet, beautiful, the kind of girl you bring home to meet your mom. At least that's who I thought she was. For the last year, though, there's been this weird undercurrent. His name is Alex. Her ex. The one that got away, or so the story went. She swore up and down they were ancient history, that he was a phase she was long over. But his name just kept popping up. I'm not a jealous guy, but I'm not stupid either. The way her eyes would light up when she talked about him, the way she'd get defensive if I asked about him, it was a red flag. About 6 months ago, I laid it out for her. I told her I couldn't spend my life with a woman who was still hung up on her ex. I told her it was disrespectful and that if she wasn't 100% in this with me, we needed to end it. She cried. She swore I was the only one she wanted. She promised she would never speak to him again. I believed her. I chose to believe her. So, back to the hotel. We had booked the whole floor for the wedding party. I was in my suite. She was down the hall with her bridesmaids. My phone buzzed. It was a notification that I had been added to a group chat. The chat was called Livy's Bride Tribe. I figured it was a mistake. One of her friends must have hit the wrong button. I was about to just leave the group when the messages started popping up, and I could see the entire chat history. My blood went cold. It was a transcript of my own execution. Her friends were asking her if she was nervous, if she was ready for this. Her maid of honor, a girl named Chloe, wrote, "Are you sure you're ready to be tied down to Mr. Safe and Stable for the rest of your life? Last chance to run for the hills." And then came the reply from Olivia. My sweet, loving fiancé. Please. The wedding is a formality. The party is going to be epic, and he's paying for all of it, lol. Don't worry, I'll still sneak away with Alex for a real celebration before the honeymoon. I just stared at that message. He's paying for all of it, lol. A real celebration. Another bridesmaid chimed in, just for one night. Olivia's reply came a second later. One night for now. He's so clueless, I can do it whenever I want. Ben will never know. He's too in love with me to ever question anything. I just sat there, reading it over and over. I wasn't angry, I wasn't hurt. It was like a switch flipped in my head. All the little doubts, all the red flags, they all snapped into focus. This wasn't a last-minute case of cold feet. This was a calculated, long-term plan. I wasn't her partner. I was her bank, her provider. The boring, stable idiot who was funding her life while she planned secret nights with her ex. I didn't leave the group chat. I didn't type a single word. I just put my phone on silent, took a screenshot of the entire conversation, and started making a new plan. My wedding was still happening tomorrow. She was going to get the show of a lifetime, but she wasn't going to be the star. She was going to be the punchline. Update 1. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. I knew exactly what I had to do. My brother, who was my best man, came into my suite around 8 a.m. He could tell something was off. "You okay, man?" he asked. "You look weirdly calm." "I'm better than okay," I said, and I showed him the screenshots. He read them, his face getting darker with every word. When he was done, he just looked at me. "We're calling this off, right?" "Nope," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "We're going through with it, but we're making a few changes to the program. I need your help." My plan was simple, and it was brutal. Olivia wanted a movie. I was going to give her a thriller with a twist ending she'd never see coming. First, I needed to get the ex, Alex, to the wedding. I used a burner phone app to send him a text, spoofing Olivia's number. It read, "I can't do it, Alex. I'm making a huge mistake. I'm at the chapel. Please, just come. I'll leave with you. I love you." It was cheesy, but it was exactly the kind of thing he'd fall for. Next, I called the AV company I had hired for the reception. I have connections in the event industry, and I knew the owner. I told him I had a last-minute surprise for the bride, a special slideshow. I told him I'd be sending over the file and that he was to play it on the big projector screen behind the altar during the groom's speech, no questions asked. He was a friend. He just said, "You got it, Ben." Then I got ready. I put on my tux. I went down and took pictures with my groomsmen. I greeted the guests as they arrived. I was the perfect happy groom. Olivia was still in her suite, completely oblivious, probably texting her bridesmaids about the real celebration to come. The ceremony began. I stood at the altar, watching as she walked down the aisle. She looked beautiful. A perfect fraud. She took my hand, her eyes sparkling. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The officiant went through his speech. Then it was time for the vows. He turned to me. "Do you, Ben, take Olivia to be your lawfully wedded wife?" I took a deep breath. I looked at Olivia, at her hopeful, smiling face. I looked out at our friends and family. Then I looked at the back of the chapel, where a confused-looking guy in a leather jacket had just slipped in. Alex had arrived. I turned back to the officiant. "No," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I don't." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Olivia's smile vanished, replaced by a look of pure shock. "In fact," I continued, taking the officiant's microphone, "I think there are a few things everyone here should know." I pointed to the back of the chapel. "Alex, glad you could make it. Olivia will be thrilled to see you." All heads turned. Alex looked like he wanted to die. "You see, folks," I said, my voice booming through the speakers, "I was accidentally added to the bridal party's group chat last night, and it was very, very educational. I learned that my fiancée, the woman standing before you, was planning on having a real celebration with her ex-boyfriend, Alex, before our honeymoon. I also learned that I am so clueless that she could do it whenever she wanted, and I would never know." I looked at her bridesmaids, who were all staring at the floor. But you know, I'm a visual learner, so I thought it would be best to just show you all what I'm talking about. I nodded to the AV booth. The massive screen behind us, which had been displaying a tasteful floral arrangement, flickered to life, and there it was, in giant, high-definition letters for everyone to see. The entire screenshot of their group chat. Her profile picture. Her words. "He's paying for all of it, lol. I'll still sneak away with Alex." The silence in the chapel was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop, then came the gasps. I saw Olivia's father, a big intimidating man, rise to his feet, his face purple with rage. I looked at Olivia. Her face was a mess of tears and horror. Her perfect movie had just turned into a nightmare. "So the wedding is off," I announced, "but the $150,000 party is very much on. Please everyone, enjoy the food, the open bar, and the band. I'd like to dedicate the first song to my ex-fiancée. It's called Liar." I dropped the mic, turned around, and walked down the aisle past the stunned faces of our guests. My brother and my groomsmen fell in behind me. As I walked out of that chapel, I heard the first notes of the song start to play. The sound of my freedom. Update 2. The The scene I left behind in that chapel was, by all accounts, a complete meltdown. Alex, the ex, apparently bolted the second everyone's attention was on the screen. Smart move. Olivia's father started screaming, not at me, but at her. The bridesmaids were crying. It was chaos. I didn't see any of it. I went straight to the reception hall, which was in another part of the estate. My catering staff, who I had given a heads up to that morning, were ready. They opened the bar, started passing appetizers, and the band, a group of guys I've worked with for years, launched into a set of upbeat party music. My friends and family started trickling in a few minutes later, looking shell-shocked but also impressed. My dad gave me a hug that almost broke my ribs. "That's my boy," was all he said. About 30 minutes into my freedom party, the doors to the reception hall burst open. It was Olivia, her father, and her mother. She had taken off her veil and her makeup was a disaster. Her father looked like he wanted to murder someone. "You," he bellowed, pointing at me. "You have humiliated my daughter. You have humiliated my family. I will sue you for everything you have." I just took a sip of my whiskey. "No, you won't," I said calmly. "Because if you do, the first thing my lawyer will do is enter into evidence a sworn testimony from every single one of those bridesmaids about the conversation they had last night. Not to mention the screenshots, which I have already sent to him. Your daughter wasn't humiliated. She was exposed. There's a difference." Her mother started in on me then. "How could you be so cruel, Ben? After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me?" I laughed. "I paid for this. I paid for every flower, every chair, every drop of champagne you're about to drink. This entire event was funded by the clueless guy your daughter was planning to cheat on. So please, enjoy the party." Olivia finally found her voice. "It was a mistake, Ben," she cried. "I was just scared. I didn't mean it." "You meant every word," I said, my voice turning to ice. And the lull at the end of "he's paying for all of it" really sealed the deal. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a plan. And your plan failed. Now if you'll excuse me, I have about 300 guests who are here to celebrate my narrow escape. Security will see you out." I had hired extra security for the event, another part of my contingency plan. 2 very large men politely but firmly escorted the 3 of them out of the reception hall. The party raged on. It was the best and most expensive breakup party in history. We ate the fancy food, we drank the top-shelf liquor, and we danced until 2 in the morning. The next day, the real cleanup began. I had my lawyer send a formal letter to Olivia and her family. It included a detailed invoice for her half of all the non-refundable costs associated with the wedding, which came to just over $75,000. It also informed her that I had canceled our 5-star, 3-week honeymoon to Bali, and that she was responsible for half of the substantial cancellation fee. The letter ended by stating that if she refused to pay, I would pursue the matter in civil court, where the evidence of her fraudulent intent to enter into the marriage would be made public. Her father paid the bill a week later. There was no note. Final update: it's been 6 months. The dust from the explosion has finally settled. The story of our wedding became the stuff of legend in our town. Everyone has a version of it, but the screenshots of that group chat, which inevitably leaked, meant the truth was never in doubt. Olivia's life, from what I hear, is a mess. Her reputation is in the toilet. Her family, deeply embarrassed, has apparently put her on a very short leash. She had to get a real job. The life of leisure that she thought she had secured with me is gone. Her friends, the bridesmaids who so eagerly participated in her deceit, also faced their own fallout. Chloe, the maid of honor, was actually dumped by her own fiancé after he heard what had happened. Apparently, he decided he didn't want to marry a woman whose idea of friendship was to encourage betrayal. I saw Olivia once. It was a few weeks ago at a coffee shop. She was alone, just staring into her cup. She looked small. The bright, confident, life-of-the-party persona was gone. She looked up and saw me. There was a flicker of panic in her eyes, and then she just looked away, her face burning with what I hope was shame. I just got my coffee and left. The ultimate revenge wasn't the public humiliation, it wasn't the money, it was simply showing her and everyone else the truth. She had built her life on a foundation of lies and manipulation, and all I did was knock out the main support beam. The rest of it just came crashing down on its own. I'm dating again. Someone real. Someone who laughs with me, not at me. Someone who understands that a relationship is a partnership, not a heist. Olivia wanted a movie. She wanted to be the romantic heroine, torn between two loves, but she misread the script. She wasn't the heroine. She was the villain. And in my movie, the villain doesn't get a happy ending. She just gets what she deserves. My girlfriend said, "You're too clingy. I need to feel single again." I said, "Say no more." Then I actually let her feel single by removing her from my phone plan and canceling her credit cards. Reality hit when her phone got disconnected. I, 26 male, got the most ridiculous text from my girlfriend Meredith, 24, last Monday while I was at work. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for 1. "Derek, we need to talk. You're suffocating me. I love you, but I need to feel single again. Not be single, just feel single. You're too clingy, and it's making me resent you. I'm staying with Tessa for a while. Don't text me constantly. Give me the freedom I need." I stared at my phone for a solid minute. Feel single? While being in a relationship? The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. Here's the thing. I'm not clingy. I text her maybe twice during work. We have dinner together most nights. Normal couple stuff. Meanwhile, she's been going out with her girls 3 nights a week, coming home at 3 a.m. I never complained. Never questioned it. But apparently, my existence in her life was too much. I texted back, "Say no more." Then I got to work. See, Meredith had this habit of forgetting who actually paid for things. Her phone, on my family plan. Her credit cards, authorized user, on mine because her credit was trash when we met. Netflix, Spotify, HBO Max, all mine. Within an hour, removed her line from my phone plan, effective immediately. Removed her as authorized user from my credit cards. Changed all streaming passwords, canceled the gym membership I paid for, removed her from my AAA coverage. She wanted to feel single? Cool. Singles pay their own bills. The beauty of it all? She was at work when her phone got disconnected. No warning, just dead. Update 1, LMAO, the entitlement is unreal. So Tuesday morning, Meredith shows up at my apartment, still has a key while I'm getting ready for work. Hair a mess, makeup smeared, looking panicked. "What did you do to my phone?" Me, calmly tying my tie. "Your phone? I don't have a phone in your name." "You know what I mean. You cut off my service." "Oh, you mean you lost access to my phone plan?" "Yeah, singles typically have their own phone plans." Her face went from red to purple. "That's not what I meant, and you know it. You said you wanted to feel single. Single people don't share phone plans with their boyfriends. I'm helping you achieve your goal. I need that phone for work, for emergencies. Verizon stores down the street. They have great single-person plans." Then she tried to buy coffee on her way to work Tuesday with the credit card. Declined. She called me from her work phone screaming, "You canceled my credit card too? Authorized user privilege revoked. Single people have their own credit. I have no money until Friday. Sounds like a single-person problem." She hung up on me. But the best part? Her best friend Tessa started texting me, trying to play mediator. "Tessa, that was really petty, Derek. She just needed some breathing room. She's getting all the room she wants. You know she can't afford her own phone plan right now." Then maybe she should have thought about that before needing to feel single while keeping all the relationship benefits. You're being manipulative. I'm being single. She should try it. Then Wednesday evening, the real fireworks started. Meredith tried to use her gym membership. Denied. She actually had them call me from the front desk. Gym employee. "Sir, there's a Meredith here saying there's been a mistake with her membership." No mistake. That membership was canceled. She's welcome to sign up for her own. I could hear her shrieking in the background about how I was financially abusing her. The gym employee sounded like they wanted to disappear. But here's where it gets good. Wednesday night, around 11 p.m., she tries to come home because Tessa's roommate was having people over. He still works, but I'd installed a door chain. Door opens 3 inches and stops. "Derek, let me in. I live here." "No, we lived here. Now I live here. You're staying with Tessa to feel single, remember? I just needed space, not to be homeless." "You're not homeless. You're at Tessa's. Enjoy your single girl sleepover." "Where's my stuff?" "In the spare room. You can arrange a time to get it." She basically had a meltdown in the hallway. Mrs. Peterson from 3B actually came out to see if everything was okay. Meredith tried to explain that her crazy boyfriend locked her out of her own apartment. Mrs. Peterson, absolute legend. Oh dear, but I thought you moved out? Derek told us you needed to be single again. The look on Meredith's face. Perfect. Update 2. The audacity keeps climbing, folks. Thursday was relatively quiet. Too quiet, should have known she was plotting. Friday morning, I get a call from my landlord. Meredith had called him crying, saying I illegally evicted her. Here's the thing though, she was never on the lease. She moved in with me. The lease is solely in my name. Landlord was confused but had to follow up. I explained the situation, showed him her text about needing to feel single and staying with Tessa. He actually laughed. So she moved out voluntarily? Yup. She's just mad I'm not subsidizing her single lifestyle. He said as long as there's no violence or actual illegal eviction, it's between us. Told me to document everything though. Already on it. But Friday afternoon is when Meredith went nuclear. She showed up at my workplace with her mom. Her mom, dude. They waited in the lobby until I came down for lunch. Ambush style. Her mom, Gloria, immediately starts, "Derek, what is this nonsense? You're acting like a child." "Hey Gloria, I'm respecting Meredith's wishes." Meredith, fake crying. "Mom, he's being cruel. He took everything away." "I didn't take anything. I stopped providing things that were mine." Gloria, "You're supposed to take care of her. She's your girlfriend." Actually, she wanted to feel single. Singles take care of themselves. That's not what she meant. She just wanted less pressure. The pressure of, what? Me existing, paying her bills, being her boyfriend? You text me all the time. Want to know where I am? Me. Pulling up our text history. I texted you twice yesterday before you wanted to be single. Have a good day and dinner at 7. Real controlling stuff. My coworker Roger walked by, saw the scene and goes, "Everything cool, Derek?" Just explaining how single people pay their own bills. Roger, absolute Chad. Oh right, like adults. Cool. Gloria was fuming, started raising her voice about how relationships require sacrifice and understanding. Security started walking over. Me, I understand perfectly. She wants to be single. I'm helping. Now please leave before security escorts you out. Meredith tried one more manipulation. If you ever loved me, you wouldn't do this. If you ever respected me, you wouldn't need to feel single while I pay for everything. They left, but not before Gloria said I'd regret treating her baby this way. Narrator, I would not regret it. Update 3. So the weekend was a shit show of epic proportions. Saturday morning, I'm at the grocery store, and I run into Meredith's friend group. They tried to stage what I can only describe as an intervention in the cereal aisle. Tessa, Derek, we need to talk about Meredith. Her friend Ashley, you're taking this too far. Her friend Brooke, she's suffering. Me grabbing my Lucky Charms, she's single. Singles sometimes struggle. Character building. Ashley, she had to borrow money from her mom for a phone. Congratulations to her for problem solving. Tessa, she can't even watch Netflix. YouTube's free. They followed me around the store trying to guilt trip me. Talking about how Meredith was crying, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, how she learned her lesson. Me? What lesson? She wanted to feel single, she's feeling it. This is what she requested. Brooke, she didn't mean it like that. Then she should say what she means. But here's where it gets wild. Sunday night, around 10 p.m., Meredith shows up drunk. Like wasted, with some guy I've never seen before, banging on my door. "Derek! Open up. I want you to meet Nathan." I look through the peephole. She's hanging off this uncomfortable-looking dude. Through the door. "Hi, Nathan. Bye, Nathan." "I'm seeing someone new. I upgraded. Nathan has his own business." Nathan, clearly confused. I thought you said you were single?" "I am single. Right, Derek?" "I'm single." "Yep, super single. Good luck with that, Nathan." "Wait, who are you?" "My ex who's being a baby about our break." "We didn't break up. You wanted to feel single? Different thing." "What the hell does that mean?" Poor Nathan started backing away as Meredith tried to explain her galaxy brain relationship philosophy. He literally said, "I'm too sober for this," and left. Just walked away while she was mid-sentence. She exploded. Screaming about how I ruined her date, her life, everything. Threatening to call the cops, sue me, tell everyone I'm abusive. Me, please do. I have your text saying you want to feel single, documentation of you moving out, and security footage of you showing up drunk with another man. Good luck with that. She actually tried to kick my door, hurt her foot, hobbled away crying. Mrs. Peterson, the real MVP, stuck her head out. Meredith, dear, singles usually don't assault their ex's doors. Monday, I get texts from a number I don't recognize. It's Meredith's dad, Robert. Son, Gloria told me what's happening. This is between you kids, but maybe consider being the bigger person here. Robert, I am being the bigger person. I respected her wishes without argument. You know that's not what she wanted. What she wanted was all the benefits of a relationship with none of the responsibilities while calling me clingy for expecting basic girlfriend behavior. I declined that arrangement. She's young, she made a mistake. And she's learning from it, that's growth. He actually sent back. Fair enough. But Tuesday morning brought the ultimate entitlement play. Meredith had gotten a payday loan, insane interest rates, to get a new phone and immediately started blasting on social media. Posted this whole sob story about financial abuse, manipulation, controlling behavior. Tagged me in everything. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. I just wanted space to breathe, and Derek took away my ability to survive. This is what abusers do. They make you dependent, then punish you for having needs. The comments were mixed. Some people bought it. Others who knew us were like, "Didn't you move out though?" My response? Posted her original text. Full screenshot. No commentary. Just the text where she said I was clingy, needed to feel single, and was staying with Tessa. The backpedaling in her next post was hilarious. That's taken out of context. I was expressing needs in a relationship and he weaponized them. Someone commented, "What context makes I need to feel single different?" She deleted everything within an hour. Update 4: Peak entitlement reached, folks. This is endgame level audacity. Wednesday, Meredith's mom Gloria calls for Meredith's new phone. Speaker mode. Whole family meeting happening on their end. Gloria: "Derek, we've had a family discussion. Meredith is willing to come back." I actually laughed. Come back? To what? To the relationship? She forgives you for overreacting. She forgives me? Meredith in the background. I understand you were hurt, but stop. I wasn't hurt. I was obedient. You wanted single, you got single. Gloria: "She's explained what she meant. She just wanted more girls' nights. She had 3 nights a week already. She wanted to feel single." Those were her words. Meredith grabbed the phone. "I'm giving you one chance to fix this. Take me back, restore my phone, credit cards, everything, or we're done. We've been done since you moved to Tessa's to feel single. I mean done. As opposed to the living separately while you feel single done?" She screamed something incoherent and hung up. But Wednesday night/Thursday morning at 2 a.m., she hit a new low. She used the emergency key I'd forgotten she knew about, hidden in the fire extinguisher case in the hallway, to try to get in while I was sleeping. Alarm system went off. Didn't tell her I installed one. She's inside, alarm blaring, trying to disable it with the old code. I call 911 from my bedroom, saying there's an intruder. Cops show up. Find her in the living room, trying to explain she lives there. Cop: "ID shows a different address, ma'am." Tessa's address? She'd officially changed it for some reason. Meredith: "I used to live here. I'm getting my things." She moved out last week, demanded to feel single, now broke in at 2 a.m. I showed them her text, the documentation of her moving out. They asked if I wanted to press charges. Meredith went pale. "Derek, don't you dare." I considered it. Really did. But decided to be merciful. No charges if she leaves now and never comes back without written permission. Cops made her leave. Told her if she came back without permission, she'd be arrested for trespassing. She tried arguing, but they weren't having it. Thursday morning, today, I get a call from her work. They're asking for employment verification for an apartment application. HR, we're calling to verify employment for Meredith regarding an apartment application. Interesting. She's actually getting her own place. Growing up. But then Tessa texts me, "You happy? She has to get a studio in a bad area because it's all she can afford. She'll probably get robbed or worse. She's a single adult making adult choices. You could have just talked to her." I did. She said I was clingy and moved out. You're impossible. I'm consistent. The best part? Mutual friend told me Meredith's been hitting up every mutual friend for money. For deposits, furniture, utilities setup. Playing the victim, saying I made her homeless. Most people are aware of the actual situation now thanks to my strategic screenshot. She even made a TikTok about recognizing financial abuse in relationships. It got roasted in the comments when someone linked my screenshot in response. She dirty deleted it within hours. Final update. It's been 2 weeks since the police incident and the karma train has fully arrived at the station. Meredith got her studio apartment. From what I hear, it's not actually that bad. She was being dramatic. But reality hit hard when she realized what being single actually costs. Phone plan, $95 a month. She got suckered into unnecessary add-ons. Credit card, denied everywhere due to trash credit. Utilities deposit, $500 no credit history as a utility customer. Internet, $80 per month. Streaming services, she's begging passwords off people. Gym, can't afford it. Groceries, ramen and cereal diet. Meanwhile, her mom Gloria called one more time trying to guilt me. She's struggling, Derek. Can't you at least help with the phone bill? That's what parents are for. I'm just the clingy ex-boyfriend, remember? But here's the beautiful karma. Remember Nathan, the guy she brought to my door? Turns out he owns a food truck, not exactly the business owner upgrade. She was bragging about, and he wanted nothing to do with her after that weird night. But she kept hitting him up, getting increasingly desperate and clingy. The irony. He actually found me on Instagram and messaged me, "Bro, your ex is insane." She asked me to add her to my phone plan. We hung out once. But the best part? Last weekend, Meredith had to move into her new place. Posted all over social media asking for help moving. Radio silence. Even Tessa was busy. Her mom and dad had to rent a U-Haul and do it themselves. She posted this passive-aggressive story. Remember who shows up for you when you're down. Most people only care when you're beneficial to them. Someone commented, like when you only wanted your boyfriend for bills but needed to feel single? Deleted within minutes. Yesterday, I ran into her at Target. She was in the ramen aisle, basket full of the cheap stuff. Saw me, tried to duck away. Didn't work. Me, "Hey Meredith, how's single life?" "Fine." Clearly not fine. "Good, that's what you wanted." I made a mistake, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I don't want to hear anything. You made a choice. Adult choices have adult consequences. I just wanted some space. You got all the space, infinite space, your own apartment's worth of space. She started tearing up, "I miss us." There is no us, hasn't been since you needed to feel single. Can't we just talk about, no, singles don't get boyfriend privileges. That includes conversations about relationships that don't exist. I walked away. She texted me from her new number an hour later. That was cruel. Blocked. The mutual friend group is split. Some think I went too far. Others are team, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Tessa apparently got sick of Meredith within a week of her staying there. Ashley admitted Meredith had been talking to other guys for weeks before the "feel single" text, trying to monkey branch, but none of them wanted to seriously date her. Robert, her dad, ran into me at the gas station. We chatted briefly. He said, "She's learning a hard lesson about appreciation." Then he shook my head and said, "Maybe she needed this." Even her own dad gets it. Meredith's now working extra shifts to afford her single lifestyle. No more 3 nights a week party schedule. No more brunches on someone else's credit card. She's experiencing the full single experience she wanted so badly. Me? I'm great. Joined a climbing gym with the money I'm saving, started seeing someone new. Clara, who has her own career, apartment, and phone plan. She literally laughed when I told her this story and said, "Who the hell wants to feel single while in a relationship? That's just wanting to be single with benefits." Exactly. The revenge wasn't elaborate. It was just giving Meredith exactly what she asked for. The complete, unsubsidized single experience. No safety net, no boyfriend benefits, no financial cushion. She wanted to feel single while keeping all the perks of having a boyfriend. Instead, she got to feel what single actually means. Paying your own way, solving your own problems, and dealing with your own choices. Funny how feeling single isn't so appealing when it comes with single-person bills, huh? To everyone asking if I feel bad. Nah. She created this situation with her entitlement and game playing. I just refused to be the sucker who funded her single fantasy. She's not homeless, not starving, not in danger. She's just experiencing life without a safety net she didn't appreciate. And honestly, Maybe she'll come out of this as a better person who understands that relationships aren't about keeping one foot out the door while expecting full benefits. Or maybe she'll just find another sucker to pay for her single lifestyle. Either way, not my problem. I'm too busy living my best actually single life before Clara and I make things official. Because when I'm in a relationship, I'm in it. No feeling single bullshit. Peace out.
Fiancé invited my high school bully to our wedding as a surprise guest and called it a harmless prank. Then when I called off the wedding, he posted on social media calling me crazy and controlling. Had things been normal, or rather ideal, I would have been on my honeymoon at this moment, instead of writing a stupid Reddit post to get perspective from people I don't even know. I had no idea life would turn around to be so cruel and unpredictable. I should be in Greece right now, with the man I consider to be the love of my life before he broke my trust, carved a dagger out of it, and pierced my heart with it. I was supposed to get married to Duncan, M28, who I've been in a relationship with for 3 years now. The relationship was never problematic, so I had never anticipated that something like this could happen. It was actually one of my best and most secure relationships, which is why now I feel like maybe I did overreact and cause such a fuss over what was a harmless prank. In high school, there was a guy named Aaron who was the stereotypical bully. He was good at sports, a little dumb otherwise, and unnecessarily cruel. There was no reason for him to be this wicked and wild. I know there is a general tendency for everyone to look for some sob story and try to whitewash every villain that they come across. Thanks, Disney, but there was absolutely no redeeming quality to Aaron. He was just pathetic, disgusting, and a bonehead, and honestly, with the kind of stunts he used to pull off in school, he should be rotting in some kind of remand home. The problem was that his father was a powerful figure in our city. We come from a small town, so nobody could do jack st about him. Everyone in school knew he was a bully, and nobody had the guts to stand up against him, not even the teachers. One day, I had had enough. I went to the principal of the school to complain, and he said that he would look into it and do something about it. A month passed, and nothing happened. Aaron hadn't stopped, so I knew the principal hadn't done anything. I went to the office again, this time with my dad. My dad forced the principal to make a written complaint so that it was in the school records. I was too young to understand that at the time, but now I do. Dad knew that if we tried to escalate the situation outside the school, the principal could just claim that I had never come to them with a complaint. So Dad ensured that we created a paper trail that couldn't be refuted. Things got serious. Aaron was called to the office, and his father was called. The father didn't turn up, he was too busy, you see. On another day, his mother was called, but she didn't turn up. This happened 3 times, and no parent came. So ultimately, it just boiled down to the principal giving him a verbal warning that this should not be repeated, and if it did, the school would have to take action against him. Everyone knew that the school wouldn't take any action against him. But most importantly, Aaron knew that nobody could touch him. He was invincible, and that was the moment when the bullying got exponentially worse. Earlier, it was just insults and things, but now it devolved into actual pranks. Like he would tip the guy in the school cafeteria to put a roach in my food. He would lace my usual class seat with gum, and that would stain all my clothes. He was clever about it. He wasn't abusing me either physically or verbally but had resorted to some mean and twisted kind of mental torture, which was somehow hilarious to everyone else around me. Whenever I tried to create a fuss about it, I was called a prude and a snob, and that I had no funny bone in my body. All in all, the experience was horrible, and even though it was a decade ago, I sometimes still have nightmares from it, and I hate Aaron with every fiber in my being. There is no way that I would ever forgive him. Even if he has changed, which the grapevine tells me he has, I don't care. I don't owe him forgiveness, and I am never going to forgive him. Aaron became a part of my past that I buried deep inside me once I left for college. I went out of state, graduated, and have never been in contact with him or in touch with him since. Both of us have a few mutuals on social media, so I would get to see him in a group photo or something once in a while, but that was the extent of it. For me, the Aaron chapter was over the minute I stepped out of school, and even though I am still traumatized by what he put me through, I had mentally just stopped engaging with his memories or that part of my life. When I met Duncan around 3 years ago, we hit it off pretty quickly. 6 months into the relationship, however, he tried to pull a funny prank on me. He was the self-proclaimed prankster of his group and was quite proud of it. I had come to know this in the initial few weeks of us dating. However, I had made it very clear to him that I was not one for pranks and that it just triggered bad memories in me. He seemed to understand it, but 6 months in, he tried to play a prank on me. I got wind of it beforehand, and I thwarted his plans. We had the biggest fight of our relationship at that point in time, and I was very close to breaking up with him. I told him that if he couldn't respect such a basic demand that I had from him, I actually had no words, and he could do whatever the hell he wanted to. I was out of this mess. It was a bad fight because he said that it wasn't such a big deal and I needed to grow a funny bone. It just kept on getting worse, and I got horrid flashbacks from school. That was when I broke down and told him what had happened to me when I was in school. He was quiet for a moment and then apologized profusely. He said that he had no idea that I had gone through this, and he was very sorry. He seemed sincere about it, and I thought that I should give him the benefit of the doubt because he didn't know all my trauma associated with pranks. This was 2.5 years ago, and he had never pranked me again, until the day of our wedding. I had honestly completely forgotten about that incident. I had no reason to remember it. I know it was a massive fight, but things got resolved, and he was genuinely remorseful, so we pushed past that bump. Now, coming to the day of the wedding, everything was going smoothly. It was a small ceremony that we had planned with a couple of friends and family, and I was very happy. I was certain that he was the guy I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and I thought that everything was perfect. Duncan had mentioned that he had invited a special guest to the wedding a few weeks ago, but I didn't really pay much heed to it. I thought that it would be his old grandmother. I love her, she's a sweetheart, and she had told us that she wouldn't be able to make it. I had thought she had somehow managed to come anyway. It's around half an hour before I am to walk down the aisle. There are a million things running through my mind. I try to call Eloise, my maid of honor, but the call isn't going through. I panic a little, calm myself, and then call Samantha, a bridesmaid. The same thing. The call isn't going through. I try Neha, another bridesmaid, and it says the same thing. By this point, alarm bells are blaring in my head. I call Jonah, Duncan's best man, and he says that he can't see anyone from my wedding party, essentially the bridesmaids and my maid of honor, and he was about to call me to check if everything is okay. I ask Mom, who was with me at the time, to call Dad up and find out what was happening, and she comes back all flustered, saying that nobody has any idea where these guys are. I am hyperventilating at this point, and I am genuinely scared because I can't get through to anyone. I ask Jonah to not tell Duncan, because I don't want him to get worried. Little did I know that this was his doing all along. I try to sneak into the wedding hall in order to figure out what the hell is up, and what I see just makes the earth shake from beneath my feet. It was Aaron at the door. I don't remember anything else, I just remember gasping and collapsing on the floor. I was completely frozen, I couldn't move my damn body, and a few people actually had to carry me away. There was a lot of commotion for the next couple of minutes, I remember that much. I faintly remember Duncan coming towards me. He was concerned, I'll give him that. But when I got better, I don't even know how long that took, he started laughing. He said that I should have seen my face, and that it was the best prank he had pulled in ages. I looked at him in disbelief. By that time, my maid of honor and bridesmaids had come, so I asked them where they were. They said that they had been locked inside a room and their phones weren't reachable. Duncan was the one who had called them there, and he had even taken away the phones of some of them, and Aaron was the one who had locked them inside. I hissed at Eloise, she has been my friend since school, and she knows about the entire Aaron thing. I asked her why he was here, and she said that Aaron was the special guest Duncan was talking about. Even at that point, I couldn't get what these guys were saying, so I asked all of them to leave and told Duncan that I wanted to talk to him. He said that we could talk after the ceremony, because it was getting late anyway. I didn't budge, and I asked him why Aaron was there. The thing is, he knew who Aaron was. I had shown him photos from school, so it wasn't as though he had no idea who Aaron was. Apparently, Aaron got a job in the same office building as Duncan, and both of them actually hit it off a few months ago. When Aaron found out that I was the one Duncan was engaged to, he was overjoyed. What an absolute moron, because he thought that since we had a friendly history together, things would be better. I asked Duncan why he encouraged Aaron, or even became friends with him, and his response was that Aaron had actually told him the truth of the matter. Apparently, Aaron's version was that he was not a bully, but rather a jokester, and I used to be very sensitive. That was why Duncan decided that it was best if Aaron came to the wedding and we could bury the hatchet. I was too stunned to speak. I don't know what came over me, but I took off my ring and handed it to him. I told him that we were over, and there was no wedding happening. All hell broke loose. I went outside, announced that the wedding was off and thanked everyone for coming, and just took off with my family. I really don't know how my friends handled the mess after that, but they did, and they haven't told me what they did because they don't want to stress me out. This was last week, and Duncan has gone crazy. He has been blowing up my phone, my parents' phones, his family is continually trying to get in touch with me, but I have just iced him out. I have been so numb these past few days, and I can't even think straight. And if that's not all, he has been slandering me all across social media, saying things like I couldn't have taken a single prank, and that I was a prude and whatnot. It is a mess, and I really don't know how the hell I got into this mess. Things were perfect between us, and it wasn't supposed to be this way. I don't know what made him pull that prank. I don't even know what led me to take that decision. I saw Aaron, and everything came flooding back. And I think even at that point, I hadn't thought of calling the wedding off. When I heard Duncan's excuse and justification for what he did, I just lost it. I couldn't believe that the man who had known me for so long, whom I had confided in and shared the most traumatic part of my life with, had suddenly decided to believe my abuser over me. He had no reason to do that. He hadn't even told me that Aaron was working in the same building. To me, even associating with him was wrong, but maybe I am overreacting. Because I am all across social media, and Duncan has been cussing me out. Everyone says that I have been very dramatic about all of it, and that it was foolish to throw away 3 years over one stupid joke. My parents and my friends support me, and they say that I was in the right to do what I did, but they also say that eventually I will have to talk to Duncan, and I can't keep avoiding it for all time to come. I know that I will need to talk to him, but God, I don't know what to say. I am second guessing my own decision right now. Maybe all the others are right. Maybe I could have handled it better. Even if I was annoyed, I could have just resolved it in a different way rather than choosing to go all nuclear. I don't know what to do, and I don't know where life is going to take me. Update 1. It has been 2 weeks since my last post, and I have finally had some time to think about what happened and why I reacted the way I did. It wasn't easy, but it had to be done. I also went through every single comment that you guys posted, and though I didn't reply to some of them, I have read all of them. I am so thankful for you and your advice, and I'm glad I came to Reddit for help. You guys have opened my eyes to so much that I was willing to brush under the carpet because my ex-fiancé was a prankster. I didn't even realize exactly how bad the situation was and how demeaning and insulting it was to me as a partner. To all those who pointed out just how big of an a-hole Duncan is, I want to say thank you. Because even though he has been great in all the years before this is something that is not excusable, at least in my eyes. The funny part is that because I still haven't spoken to him about what happened on the wedding day, he is continuing to spew st about me everywhere. In public, he is acting as though everything is my fault, but privately, he has been begging me to talk. I wanted to be done with the drama, so I had gone to meet him yesterday. He wanted to come home, but I said that I would only be willing to meet him in a public place. We met at a cafe, and the meeting was a disaster, to say the very least. I had hoped, stupidly, I admit, that he would at least have had some remorse, that he would have used this time to introspect and dig deep to understand why I reacted the way that I did. But no. He was his usual cocky self, and I had had enough of it. He started off by saying that I had reacted very poorly, and it had shamed him in society. He also said that it wasn't that big of a prank, and it certainly did not warrant such an overreaction. I let him speak to his heart's content and then tore his argument apart bit by bit. I told him that the fact that he had even invited Aaron to the wedding was weird as hell. Why would you even think of bringing my abuser to the day that is supposed to be the most special one in my life? He had the audacity to scoff at me and say, I know how big of an abuser he was, Mel. I had never in my life imagined that he would stoop to this level and say something so cruel to me, but well, maybe I had never seen this side of him. It took every ounce of strength in me to not jump across the table and slap him square in the face. I told him that if he believed a literal stranger over me, the woman he wanted to marry, then I had nothing more to say, and that I was glad I called off the wedding. He rolled his eyes, and I believe he was still treating it like a minor fight and not a breakup. He said that I was being dramatic for no reason, and I needed to calm down and talk rationally. I told him that there was no more talking to be done between us because he clearly didn't believe what I said. Moreover, he chose to believe my abuser, call him to the wedding, all for what? A few cheap laughs. And nobody found it funny except him. It wasn't even a good prank at that. He then said something that just made me lose all respect for him. He said that he was willing to forgive me and take me back, in spite of my silly shenanigans. But I needed to publicly admit that I was being dramatic. It was like talking to and listening to a goddamn wall. He was being so obtuse about the entire thing, as if I was the one at fault. And at that point, I realized that he genuinely believed that it was me at fault. He kept on insisting that I needed to stop taking all this so seriously, and I had had enough. He was being a bonehead, and I had no interest in talking to him anymore. I just handed him my ring, and I think that is when he realized that I was dead serious about us not being together anymore. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. It was pathetic to watch, honestly. He started begging me to reconsider, saying that he made a mistake and whatnot. The change was disgusting because I knew it wasn't genuine. I told him that if it took me returning the ring to realize how big of a mistake this was, then he is an immature little schoolboy. I told him that we were done and that I was not reconciling with him. He begged me to sit down so that we could talk more about this, but I was done. I walked out of the cafe, and I felt so much relief and power in that single instant. The feeling is indescribable. He has been blowing up my phone since then, apologizing, saying that he now realizes that he was wrong. But I haven't been responding at all. What is the point of realizing all this now, when I have called off the wedding and given my ring back? I don't need his sick apologies anymore. I know it's going to hurt in the longer run. We've been together for 3 years, we had planned an entire life with each other. So yeah, it is going to be difficult, and it will probably hit me in a couple of days, the magnitude of it all. But it is what it is. I can't force myself to be with him again. He hasn't just betrayed my trust. I have also lost all respect for him, and for me, there is no coming back from that. None at all. So yeah, there goes 3 years, and there goes everything else, but at least I can sleep at night knowing that I made the right choice for myself. Update 2. I took the advice of a lot of you around here and decided to clear the air myself. After my meeting with Duncan, he was acting all needy and clingy for a couple of days, after which he went radio silent. I had thought that maybe he had understood that it was over for good between us, and good sense had prevailed. I was wrong. I got a frantic call from Eloise, who told me that Duncan had posted a long sob story on both Facebook and Instagram for the world to see. It was a very one-sided, half-baked attempt at trying to garner sympathy, and any last ounce of respect that I felt for him evaporated the minute I finished reading all that he had written. He had basically called me every name in the book and told the world that I was the one causing him distress because I was jealous of the fact that he was making new friends, aka Aaron. He tried to portray me as a Bats T crazy, controlling partner, writing things like I had always been this way, and he had had to compromise on friends and friendships because of me. That has never happened. He tried to paint me as a toxic woman who had a problem with anyone that wasn't me, so much so that I was insecure over a friend that he had made in the office, and the worst part according to him was that the friend was a man, so there was no chance of anything happening between them. He pretended to be all good and submissive in the post, saying that he would have understood and even relented had his friend been a woman, but given the way I was behaving over a male friend, going to the extent of canceling the wedding and not being open to reconciliation, it showed that I was egotistical, insecure, and narcissistic. He threw together whatever words he could find and tried to malign me in the worst way possible. I had never thought that he could stoop to this level, but he proved me wrong again. And I knew that I had to do some damage control. This was getting completely out of hand, and it was time for me to play some offense, or he would just whitewash everything that he had done and become the victim in the entire situation. It took me an entire day to sort out my thoughts and write whatever I did. The text/post is too long to copy here, but it didn't really say anything other than what I have already mentioned in my original post. I made sure to include the part where I was bullied by his new friend in school and that I had told him early on in the relationship that I had an aversion to pranks of this sort. I didn't mince words, I didn't try to be nice about it. But I also did not lie. Every single word that I put out for the world to see was the truth, and that was exactly what was not palatable to Duncan. To say that the post blew up would be an understatement. All the people who were whining over what a bitch I was and consoling and cajoling Duncan were now storming my DMs to apologize and get their act right. I was flooded with texts and calls, surprisingly none from Duncan himself. I just got a text from him a day later calling me a stupid bitch, and that was it. I then blocked his numbers because I don't need him in my life anymore, and I certainly don't need any more of this drama. The surprising thing that happened was that his mom reached out to me. I have always liked her, she has been the sensible kind, even though we haven't interacted a lot to be considered close. She told me that she had heard a very different story from Duncan and that she was sorry for not asking me earlier. She said that she had believed her son, and that she now realizes that that was a mistake. She apologized on his behalf, and I told her that she didn't have to. Out of all the people that reached out to me, her apology and message seemed the most genuine, and she didn't even have to apologize if I am being honest. It wasn't her fault that her grown son was behaving this way. I thankfully haven't had anything from Aaron yet, and I know I won't. If he still had the gall to stand in front of me and play that stupid prank on the day of my wedding, I can make a fairly accurate estimate of how much he would have matured in all these years. 0. The narrative has changed now, and people are boycotting Duncan, both for being in a hole and for lying about everything for social media brownie points and sympathy from internet strangers. It's sad how things have turned out for him. It's sad for me, too, because the adrenaline rush from all this drama is going to wear off soon, and I am dreading that because that is when I will have to face reality. It's not something that can be avoided, and now I think it's time I rip the band-aid off. It has been a long time now, me swimming and drowning alternatively in this godforsaken mess. It's time I got myself out of it. I owe it to myself and my parents and friends who have stood by me in this entire episode. Thanks to all of you who supported me and made me stand firm on my decision because I was very close to retracing my steps and going back to Duncan when I had first posted. I am glad I didn't go through with it, and I didn't let him gaslight me into thinking that I was the one overreacting. Hopefully, things will get better from here onwards. Update 3, I'm going on a trip. Duncan and I had originally planned that we would go for our honeymoon a couple of weeks after the wedding. Well, now this is no honeymoon, but I had spent considerable money on the bookings, so I thought, why the hell not? I am going to go for a solo trip to Southeast Asia. I know it might sound weird to a lot of you, but I need a break, and after being in a relationship for 3 years, I need to restart, and more importantly, rediscover how to do things myself. I have had no contact from him now, which makes me really relieved, and also a bit sad because no matter what happened, I do miss him. Of course, I am not going to go back to him, but it isn't easy letting go of an attachment that lasted for so long. So I need this trip in order to get back on track and get my mind off things. The situation isn't ideal, but I need to learn how to make the best of it.